Well, good morning today. Today is Wednesday, November 3rd, and this is the time and place for the regularly scheduled Nevada Gaming Control Board meeting for the month of November. Mr. Secretary, has our agenda been posted in accordance with the open meeting law?
Yes, it has.
Okay. Today we'll be covering all items noted on our November agenda. Mr. Secretary, let's proceed with public comment.
This item is placed on the agenda to give the public an opportunity to comment on gaming-related matters.
Anyone wishing to speak, to make a public comment, please step forward to the podium. In Southern Nevada, please, we'll start first. Okay, let's go to Carson City. Is there anyone there? Please step to the podium. Okay, I don't see anyone who wants to make a public comment. Mr. Secretary?
Pursuant to NRS 241.035, this item is the consideration of the approval of the Nevada Gaming Control Board disposition for October 2021.
Okay, so each of us has had an opportunity to review the disposition from last month. Would anyone like to make a motion?
I will, Chair Gibson. I move to approve the prior month's disposition.
Okay, Mr. Secretary.
Member Katsaros?
Aye.
Member Watkins?
Aye.
Chair Gibson?
Aye, thank you very much. Mr. Secretary, I believe that brings us to non-restricted agenda item number 1. Would you please read it into the record?
Non-restricted number 1 is the application of Las Vegas Sands Corp. for a continuous or delayed public offering.
Welcome.
Welcome. Good morning, Chair Gibson, Member Katsaros, Member Watkins. For the record, I am Mark Clayton, Nevada Gaming Counsel to Las Vegas Sands. Here with me today is Randy Hyzak, who's the Executive Vice President and Global Chief Financial Officer for Las Vegas Sands. Also present is Carol Wetzel, Senior Vice President and General Counsel for Venetian Palazzo. Before, as the Executive Secretary noted, we are before you today in connection with the company's shelf approval. Just for the sake of the record, the company first obtained shelf approval in 2004. It does not have any immediate plans to utilize the shelf, but obviously wants it to maintain the flexibility that every company who has one of these shelves utilizes. As far as the requirements of NGC Regulation 16115, the company has obviously securities listed on the New York Stock Exchange. Its shareholder equity exceeds $10 million, and it's filed all the necessary reports. And lastly, we have reviewed draft 1 of the shelf order and believe it's in proper form. So with that, I'll ask Randy to make a few comments and provide a company update.
Okay, welcome, Mr. Hyzak.
Thank you. So honestly, we just got through with our third quarter earnings release back at the end of October. And for us, Las Vegas Sands, our global results do continue to be impacted by the pandemic, especially in Asia. Here in Vegas, at times we forget the pandemic's going on outside of the masks we all wear with the robustness of the local gaming economy, but that's not the same case in either Macau or Singapore. There continue to be heightened restrictions in both the Macau and Singapore markets, although we have been able to eke out small levels of EBITDA over the last couple quarters. We do remain confident in the eventual recovery of both of those markets once Asia visitation and the restrictions are lifted in terms of travel and things of that nature. Coming back to our operations here in Vegas, we did have a very strong third quarter. The team delivered EBITDA of about $132 million, which was 42% above what we actually were able to realize in Q3 of 19 before the pandemic even started. So great job by the team. With regard to our overall global development projects in Macau, the one thing the pandemic has afforded us the opportunity to do is to effectively accelerate and complete our Londoner project there. In Singapore, on the other hand, some of our development projects there have been delayed in connection with the pandemic, but we do hope to accelerate those over the course of 2022. As Mark indicated, we do have the shelf registration statement on file. We filed last November. And as he indicated, we don't have any current plans to utilize that. But again, it's good to have the ability and flexibility there, having that on file with the SEC if it's ever needed to be utilized. With that, I'll happy to entertain any questions from y'all.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hyzak. So this would be the eighth shelf approval that you would see.
That's correct.
Whatever it is. Okay, thank you. I have no questions. This is fairly routine, and I'll turn it over to my colleagues for questions. Watkins,
Yeah,
Charles?
just quickly, over the last 3 years, you've used, your shelf for public offerings of debt twice, is that accurate?
Yes, ma'am.
Also, it's my understanding that in the Daniels Family Revocable Trust, the LBSC case, your company filed a motion to dismiss that's now fully briefed, but there's no hearing date set for that. Is that correct?
That is correct.
It's also my understanding that in the Tereski versus Abelson shareholder derivative action, it's currently stayed until 30 days after the final resolution of the motion in the Daniels family case. Is that accurate?
Yes, ma'am.
Are those the most recent updates with regard to those two pieces of litigation?
I'm sorry.
Are those the most recent?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's all I have.
Good morning. I didn't have any questions on the shelf either. It's very customary, very straightforward, but I would like to get a bit more of an update on the operations with respect to Macau, Singapore, as well as here. So why don't we start with here first? In terms of your outlook on the comeback of the convention business, what are you guys seeing right now?
Yeah, it's next year, is pretty scheduled pretty full. We do continue to see certain meetings and conventions, certain organizers delay events. We've seen that coming into Q3 and Q4. Having said that, we have the Apex event currently, in our property, and it's as robust as ever. So again, 22 looks, great, and then beyond 22, again, everything's full.
But no, it's interesting you say it's delayed. So you're seeing delays, not necessarily full outright cancellations at this point.
Right.
That's good to see. I know if we were back last year, if we were looking forward to this year, nobody had the foresight of what is happening now.
Right.
Convention business still has not come back, but for whatever reason, gaming has. So it's good to hear that. The development on the MSG sphere seems that's been delayed a little bit.
A little bit, and I think some of that was just in connection with the pandemic, just in connection, just getting the construction crews, the materials and things of that nature. But if you've had a chance to drive by it lately, we do look forward, well, it's actually MSG's project, but we do look forward to that being completed sometime over the course of late next year, early 23.
Okay, but that continues on.
Yes.
And then if we go over to Singapore, I think I had read in our materials that you were looking at delaying some of the development you had originally planned there. Is that accurate?
We're currently in discussions with the Singapore government with regard to the expansion project we have there for our second integrated resort tower. And, the delays there are similar. There were certain things we just couldn't get started on last year in connection with the pandemic. Even more difficult than is being experienced here in terms of resource shortages, work shortages, and things of that nature, as well as, the pandemic, right or indifferent, has given us the opportunity with the government and discussions with them to reassess what exactly, should make sense. We will be doing something to the levels at which we've discussed previously and agreed upon with the government previously, whether that, there could be slight modifications to that.
When you say agreed upon, was that part of the agreement, your obligations that you have as part of the renewal that you
Yes.
had received, which was we're going to earmark X dollars, X development, et cetera, to that project?
Correct.
Okay. And so far, they're sort of in sync with you right now in your
Yes.
thoughts, and they understand
Yes.
what's happening in terms of why this is occurring.
Absolutely. And even just some of this, simply some of the ability to sit down with them and discuss it. They just don't have the capacity and bandwidth to do that in terms of the other things they're dealing with, understandably so.
And if we just shift over to Macau, then concession agreements sort of looming, and update you can provide there.
So, the concessions expire for us as well as the other 5 concessionaire and sub-concessionaires June of 26th of next year. And the Macau government just completed a consultation period that ended on October 29th. And we look forward to working, with the government in terms of whether it's an extension, that they put forward, or a full renewal process. We
Okay, 'cause
believe that.
all I'm seeing is what I'm reading in the newspaper.
Yes.
I was hoping you're going to break some news for us here.
Unfortunately, what you see in the press and coming out of Macau and Asia is about as much clarity as we have in terms of the process.
And correct me if I'm wrong, you're a sub-concessionaire of Galaxy?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is there a thought that that sort of sub-concessionaire title would go away? And does it really
That's-
matter? Is it semantical anyway?
There, if you go through there's like 9 key items that the government put out for public comment. One of the items was number of concessionaires and kind of the concessionaire, sub-concessionaire current structure. So it is apparent that is something they are reviewing, but we have no insider perspective in terms of what direction they may take.
And then in terms of the restrictions they have right now with regard to COVID and travel, et cetera, could you share a little bit of insight where they're at currently right now?
Yeah, most of the, I guess at a high level, there is some limited travel in terms of border crossings from China into Macau. Hong Kong is still effectively closed, in terms of patrons coming over from Hong Kong, which that's a huge patron draw for us as well. But effectively, it's all due to the travel restrictions and the ability to where pre-pandemic, individuals could go to a kiosk and electronically obtain a travel visa. Whereas now the application, it's all manual again. And, it appears to be that is how, visitation and border crossings are being controlled now. And it's just, just the number of visas are extremely limited, as well as, as they have case spikes in mainland China, you'll have certain jurisdictions that all of a sudden where there may not have been a quarantine or a 14-day self-quarantine. If you have a spike and someone visits from that region, then the quarantine spikes. So it just seems a lot of individuals versus taking the risk of maybe getting stuck somewhere, they're happy and content just to travel within mainland China versus over to Macau.
And that's kind of where my question goes to the heart of, is the travel restrictions where they're allowing inflows from. So it's mainland China. You said Hong Kong's effectively shut. Is that because they have to quarantine for 2 weeks, or?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And then
and it's just, some of this is not only really on the Macau side, it's also, if you're a Hong Kong resident, you want to travel to Macau, if you come back or when you come back, you may have a 14 or 21 day
on that side.
Thank you, Mr. Hyzak. I just would note for the record that given the sensitivity of the concession renewal, I will limit my questions, and I'd ask that we do the same as a board, so we don't put in jeopardy anything we're doing. There's nothing material here that would otherwise affect the shelf approval in my mind. Ratio analysis looks good. We've seen some, you're levering up a little bit, but that's to be expected, I think, during the pandemic.
Right.
I appreciate greatly the way you've treated your employees during this time. I know that Mr. Adelson, I think, continues that you paid these employees despite whether or not they're working,
Agree.
which I think is a show of integrity. So thank you for that.
No, definitely, they're the heartthrob of everything we do. So.
Okay. So with that, are there any further questions?
I didn't have anything else.
I don't have anything further.
Okay. All right. Well, with that, I'd ask for a motion. Shannon?
Chair Gibson, I move to recommend approval of non-restricted item number 1 as read into the record by Mr. Secretary pursuant to shelf draft number 1.
Thank you. Mr. Secretary?
Member Katsaros.
Aye.
Member Watkins.
Aye.
Chair Gibson.
Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Secretary, let's go to non-restricted number 2.
Non-restricted number 2 are the applications of the Nathan Peach Irrevocable Trust of 2020, registration as a holding company, for a finding of suitability as a member, and the pledge is noted on the agenda. You also have the applications of Timothy Andrew Pegram for a finding of suitability as a trustee, and Nathan Patrick Peach for a finding of suitability as a beneficiary, and for licensure as a key employee of GPEG One LLC, doing business as Sharky's Casino. Lastly, you have the application of Pegram LLC for a transfer of interest.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there appearances today?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Dennis Nylander with the law firm Kemper Kroll. I'm appearing today with my co-counsel Seth Carlson. And if I could, I'd like to introduce you to the applicants today.
Please,
First,
welcome,
there's,
Mr. Nylander.
Mr. Timothy.
I said, welcome, Mr. Nylander. It's good to see you
thank
as
you.
always. All right. Please introduce
you
your
as well.
client.
And it's nice to be seen. Thank you. Yeah, so the applicants today with GPEG are first Timothy Pegram. who's here as a trustee today behind me. And next is Mr. Nathan Peach. This is his first time as an applicant, primarily for a transfer of interest and as a beneficiary of a trust, as well as a key employee. So that's Nathan. And then Mr. Mike Pegram, who's the owner and operator of GPEG. And with your permission, I'd like to have Sev go through the applications with you, just to give you a brief explanation of what you have before you today.
Please, Mr. Carlson, please step forward and go through the applications for us.
Thank you, Dennis, and good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. The transactions before you today are first an application for registration of the Nathan Peach Irrevocable Trust of 2020. The trust will hold the shares of Pegram LLC that are proposed to be transferred. Then next in this set is the application of Timothy Pegram to be found suitable as the trustee of the trust, and for Nathan Peach to be found suitable as a beneficiary. The second set is a request for approval for Mike Pegram to transfer a 12% membership interest in Pegram LLC to the trust. In conjunction with the transfers, we are requesting approval for the trust to be found suitable as a member and for approval of the pledge agreement. The interest will serve as collateral for a promissory note. Finally, Mr. Peach is requesting licensure as a key employee, specifically an operations manager at Sharkey's in Gardnerville. And then, Mr. Chairman, we would like an opportunity for Nate to give you a little bit of his background, and for Mike to also give you an update on operations.
Hey, please, Mr. Peach, Nathan Peach, would you please step forward? And if you wouldn't mind, please tell us about yourself a little bit. This is our first time meeting.
Good morning. Thanks. Sorry, there's a little bit of a delay there. Thanks again for having me. I moved to Nevada after I graduated from Arizona State in 2014. A tale as old as time. I didn't really know what I wanted to do with myself, so I came out here for a job. And 18 months later, without me fully realizing it, that job kind of morphed into a career. I've spent about the last 7 years diving headlong into just about every department we have in the business. I started parking cars. Next thing you know, I was working the slot floor. I was working behind the bar. I spent about 2 years learning slot audits and managing cages. I actually opened a couple cages for the company, last two reopenings we did. I've done my time in the well in food and beverage. I'd argue I'm still doing time in that well. And as with so much in this business, I mean, you continue to learn through osmosis. So what this is going to give me an opportunity to do is take on a more active leadership role in the company, but more specifically at Sharkey's. And at the end of the day, what that entails is doing right by the player, doing right by the employee, and ultimately doing right by you folks. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. And your father, I believe, was going to step forward and tell us about the operations. Accurate? Grandfather.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we'll have Mr. Pegram come and give you an update, and then we'll be prepared to respond to any questions you may have, of course.
Okay.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, member of the board. I'm Mike Pegram. As you know, we operate, GPEG operates 5 casinos here in Northern Nevada. Also the managing member of Pegram LLC, which is the majority member of GPEG. To give you a little background, Nate is my grandson. When he started school down at ASU during the summers, he would come up here and start working. I think his first job was the glamorous busser. And then, as he said, went through valet parking, went through the hotel, worked at the front desk clerk. But every job that we gave Nate, not only has he performed well, but he's liked by his peers, and he has grown into a very good leader for our company. And a little part that he left out when he came up here, he was debating on whether to go to graduate school. And I asked him, I said, please just spend 1 year and decide what you want to do. Well, I think that 1 year is now on year 7 or 8. So we are very happy to have him and look forward to him becoming a partner of ours in this in the family business, and also making the step as a key employee in the state of Nevada.
Okay, thank you very much,
As for,
Mr. Pegram. So your
as far as our
grandson's,
operation,
please go ahead.
I'm
Explain.
sorry. No,
Please go ahead.
No, I was just going to go in and segue into the operations of what we're experiencing in Northern Nevada.
Yeah, I'd like to hear that. I think we all would, please.
You know, the good news is business is great. We still face challenges of employment in Northern Nevada where we're not totally fully staffed. The customers have came back with great vigor. We were impacted by the fires in September very much, but October we've just closed with a tremendous month again, another record month. So we just hope we can keep the momentum going.
Okay, thank you. As far as the transaction before us, or the item before us, or items before us, the transfer of interest of 12% to your grandson is into his trust is collateralized by the by a promissory. Is that accurate?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so it's not just a direct gift. You're a strict steward, Mr. Grandfather.
Yes, sir. That's the way I was brought up, and I hope it continues in my family.
Okay. With that, I don't have any additional questions at the moment. I'll turn it over to my colleagues for questions. This is Mr. Katsaros's neck of the woods. So I would ask him to begin, if you would.
It is my neck of the woods, and I know most of these properties very well. Thank you for being here today, Mr. Pegram. I did want to get an update on the properties which you just gave, but more specifically, one of them, the CVI right now. I know you have brought back loads of concerts this past summer as well. How did that go for the operations down there?
Very well. Matter of fact, they don't think we had a concert that was not sold out. Unfortunately, because of the smoke, we had to cancel the last 2, but we did have 7 very successful concerts this summer, and looking forward to another big year next year.
Yeah, because I know last year had to obviously sort of be shut down, but and when I say down there, I'm speaking from the perspective of Reno. I should say up there coming from Vegas, but the matters before us right now with Mr. Peach, your grandson, I will say before we move on, is that from his background, it's been that the materials I'm looking at, it was absolutely clean. We had no issues there. So I have no questions on his background. I'm glad that he gave an overview, but I will say it seems he's been at CVI, Sharky's, and Slot World as well. And he's bounced around in various positions, as he's mentioned. So in fact, he is somebody that's being brought up straight from the ground up within the industry. And I did note Buster was his first job, as you mentioned. Is there anything else you wish to share with your operations at this point?
No, the only thing I can add is we're a very hands-on company, and Nate demonstrates that.
Is one question I have is Sharky's a slot only, or do they have any tables in there? I haven't been in there in about 15 years.
Slots only. The only location we have with table games is Carson Valley Inn.
Okay. Well, thank you. I didn't have any other questions.
Member Watkins.
Good morning to all of you in the North. Like my colleagues, I can appreciate the fact that Mr. Peach has worked his way up. There were no issues with the background investigation, and I'm happy to support the application.
Okay. Thank you very much, my colleagues. So are there any further questions that either of you have?
No.
Okay. With that, I would ask for a motion.
I move to recommend approval of non-restricted item number 2 as read into the record by Mr. Secretary.
Mr. Secretary, please.
Member Katsaros?
Aye.
Member Watkins?
Aye.
Chair Gibson?
Aye. Thank you. Thank you for appearing.
Thank you. And we also want to make sure and thank your staff. As usual, they did a very thorough and professional job. So thank you for that.
Thank you, sir. Okay, Mr. Secretary, let's let them queue out. And then we'll move on to non-restricted number 3.
Non-restricted number 3 is the application of Mohegan Tribal Gaming Authority doing business as Mohegan Gaming and Entertainment for an amendment to their order of registration and the applications of Kenneth Raymond Davison and Carol Klein Anderson for a finding of suitability as controlling person or officer. You also have the application of Carol Klein Anderson for licensure as a key executive, MGNV LLC.
Okay, welcome, Mr. Rubenstein.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Mr. Secretary. I'm Mark Rubenstein with the law firm of Reed Rubenstein and Bogatz, appearing on behalf of Mohegan Gaming and Entertainment. With me today are the applicants, Carol Anderson and Ken Davison, as well as Mark Camella, the company's vice president and chief compliance officer. If it pleases the board, what we'd like to do is bring up the individual applicants first, starting with Ms. Anderson, with each of them making a brief presentation about their backgrounds and answering any questions you may have for them. And then I'll come back up and we can address the second amended order of registration.
Okay, please.
Thank you. With that, I'll ask Ms. Anderson to come up.
Okay, Ms. Anderson. So your application is for licensure as a key executive. Please tell us about yourself if you would.
Hello, Chairman Gibson, members Katsaros, Dr. Watkins. My name is Carol Anderson, and I am currently the Chief Financial Officer of Mohegan Gaming and Entertainment. Thank you for taking the time to consider my application for a gaming license. I am proud to have been a resident of the great state of Nevada since 2008. I'm familiar with the importance of the gaming rules and regulations in Nevada, and I recognize that approval of a gaming license is indeed a privilege. I will take all responsibilities associated with a gaming license very seriously. I joined Mohegan Gaming and Entertainment as Chief Financial Officer in March of this year, after providing consulting services to the organization beginning in December 2020. As a consultant, my primary role was to facilitate the refinancing transaction the company completed in January of this year, which we discussed in connection with the board's approval of the pledge relating to one of our Nevada licensed entities. As I learned more about the Mohegan organization, and in turn the organization learned more about me, we discovered that there was a lot of overlap in my prior professional experience and interests, as well as the attributes the organization was looking for in its next CFO. My current responsibilities include capital markets, financial planning and analysis, corporate accounting, financial reporting, corporate treasury and tax, procurement, and evaluation of and support for strategic business initiatives. I recently developed a framework for our newly formed Environmental, Social, and Governance Committee, and I am currently serving as the chairperson of that committee. Prior to joining Mohegan, I spent nearly 5 years at Scientific Games with both legal and financial responsibilities in areas such as capital markets, financial reporting, corporate treasury, mergers and acquisitions, and entity integrations. I was previously an attorney in private practice, representing both issuers and underwriters in a variety of capital markets transactions, as well as a former leveraged finance investment banker in New York City. I received my undergraduate degree from Syracuse University and my law degree from Boston College Law School. My husband and I actually met in Las Vegas not too long after he moved here from St. George, Utah, which was a few years after I relocated here from New York. We've been happily married for 6 years, together for more than 9. We've adopted 2 rescue dogs, Finn and Ryder, who keep us on our toes, but also complete our home. I would like to thank Special Agent Chamberlain for her work on my investigation, as well as a wonderful conversation when we were reviewing my application materials. Thank you again for your time and for your consideration of my application for a gaming license in the state of Nevada, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. I would note that your background is incredibly clean, no areas of concern or items of interest. And I believe that my colleague, Member Watkins, may have some questions about an item that you just mentioned.
Okay.
I don't have many questions, but I would like to say thank you for that wonderful spirited presentation. I enjoyed it very much. I wanted to ask you about your work on the Environmental, Social, and Governance Committee. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure, absolutely. I'd love to speak about it. It is a personal and professional passion of mine. What we discovered is that the Mohegan organization was already doing a number of things in the areas of environmental, social, and governance because they align with the true cultural underpinnings of the Mohegan tribe itself. It's respect for Mother Earth, a 13 generations view. And so it was a natural part of our organizational fabric already. What I did notice, however, is that we are a little bit uncoordinated in terms of thinking through how to prioritize, standardize, and communicate out to external stakeholders, interested parties, in terms of what we're trying to accomplish from an ESG perspective. So the intent of the committee is primarily, let's call it threefold. The first is to gather all of the information across the organizations, which may be specific to individual properties in terms of what they're doing in relation to ESG initiatives. Then what we'd like to do is develop a consolidated framework for prioritizing areas of focus for the organization. Companies, it's hard for companies to be all things in the areas of ESG, but we want to think about what's most impactful for the organization, our communities in which we operate, as well as those key stakeholders, and then develop a framework to benchmark and communicate out our progress in relation to those initiatives. So there's more transparency in terms of what we're doing and how far we've come in terms of achieving those goals that we've set for ourselves.
Okay. And how long have you been in that role?
Pardon?
How long have you been in that role?
We actually just formed the ESG steering committee. It's something that, having started in March, as I was looking across the organization in terms of other areas outside of core finance where I could lend a hand, the committee was constituted in the fall. Upon approval from our management board, that committee will report directly to our CEO and our management board. So it's a very new process for us, but I'm very excited about what we're looking to accomplish.
And you were the first chair assigned to that.
I am the first chairperson of that committee, yes.
Very cool. Okay, as Mr. Gibson noted, the background was very clean, and I would just like to commend you on your educational and career development thus far, and wish you the best of luck.
Thank you so much, Dr. Watkins. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. And I know that I appreciate the ESG committee that you formed and chair. And I tried to tee that up for my colleague here, and she asked questions. So we may reach out and ask for more information about that. That's something, it's an item of interest for us personally.
Absolutely. I'd love to keep you updated on it.
Thank you
Thank you very much.
Mr. Katsaros, do you have any questions?
Certainly. Good morning. Thank you very much for that presentation. I really appreciate it. I did want to ask a question. How did you get, because you got a great background here, just how did you get to Scientific Games? What was the nexus there?
The nexus to Scientific Games was quite interesting. As you note from my background materials, I was previously an attorney at Latham & Watkins in New York City. Latham & Watkins has a relationship with Scientific Games. So when Scientific Games was looking for somebody located in Nevada to help facilitate their capital markets work from a legal and finance perspective, Latham presented my name to them as a potential candidate.
Okay. And you mentioned you moved here 8 years ago?
I moved here in 2008.
2008, excuse me. And you're planning to reside here still?
That is
in your
correct.
current role? Will you be able to have an office at your property here in Las Vegas as well?
When I am located here in Nevada, working out of the home, but I do travel regularly to the corporate office in Connecticut.
And then there was a note in our materials with regard to your Creek project. Are you able to speak to that? It seemed there was going to be some sort of shrinking of your investment there.
That is correct. So we recently announced that we have transferred the entirety of our equity ownership interest in the Greek project. After conducting a comprehensive review of the company's financial position, its priorities, et cetera, especially in light of the COVID pandemic backdrop, we determined that it was not in the best interest of the company to continue to pursue that project. So that transfer of the equity to what was previously our minority partner, Yakturna, was completed and approved by the Hellenic Gaming Commission just a few weeks ago.
Okay, so no equity. Will it be any management contract or any involvement, I guess, going forward?
Correct. Currently no intention to participate in the Inspire Greece project.
Okay, thank you, because I wasn't clear on that point, whether or not there'd be an ongoing relationship. But as was mentioned, you have a very clean background. It's great to see you here. I appreciate the dialogue that we had today, and I'm happy to support your application.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. Davison, please step forward.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for your time, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Please state your name for the record, please, first. Please state your name for the record.
My name is Kenneth Davison. Thank you for your time and the opportunity to be here before you. I was born and raised in Connecticut and received my bachelor's degree from the University of Connecticut in finance. I spent about 20 years in the field of accounting and finance for not-for-profit organizations, corporations, and a non-governmental agency in Afghanistan. In 2010, I went to law school, and when I got out, I was practicing consumer law up until a year and a half ago when I was first elected to the tribal council for the Mohegan tribe, and began serving on the board of MGE. I was reelected in August, and I currently live in Uncasville, Connecticut, and I have 2 cats.
Thank you for that last bit. That was helpful. So you're currently on the you're part of the Mohegan Gaming Entertainment Committee, which is that an automatic placement or participatory?
Yes, there are 9 tribal counselors, and those 9 counselors serve as the Mohegan Gaming and Entertainment Board.
Thank you very much. I will turn it over to my colleagues for questions.
So if you could just talk about your daily roles and your daily duties.
Sure. Yeah. We have meetings that consume every morning of every week. And we have standard meetings, standing meetings with MGE management every Tuesday morning. Generally every Friday morning. There's frequent interaction during the week when things arise. And since my background's in finance and accounting, I tend to kind of focus on that area. I think when Carol came on, she and I had a lot of interaction, and certainly honored that she joined the organization. And then we also oversee the tribal government. And so we're involved quite a bit in setting policies, procedures. And yeah, it's a full-time job, more than a full-time job.
In terms of these meetings, did you say it happens daily or weekly?
We have daily meetings, but with MGE, it's usually twice a week.
Yeah, I'm more specific to MGE. Yes, that's really what I'm interested in. And in terms of is there action that you're taking at these meetings in terms of direction of MGE, taking decisions, voting on things?
Yes.
Okay. What sort of action are you taking personally?
Oh, well, we receive reports from the different entities, Mohegan Sun Casino, the casino in Pennsylvania, in Ontario, here. And then there are a couple of, well, now there's one management contract with that we have with the casino in Washington. So we get rundowns of the performance of those casinos every week. And if there's certain issues that arise with those casinos, we might have longer discussion. We may break off into and discuss it further in executive session. And depending on what the issue is, vote on anything that comes up. But if there's anything that comes up between the meetings, we will also,
Because you're
vote on.
overseeing the management. You're overseeing the management, correct? So you'll have a daily or sort of open line of communication.
Yes.
And then when you say you'll vote on things as they come up, could you give me, a for instance?
Oh, with
MGE.
Yeah, I mean, Greece came up recently about prior to the most recent action with Greece, we voted to reduce our equity participation in the project.
So that would have been the decision taken at the board level.
Yes.
Okay, understood.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm trying to get a flavor for your involvement on the MGE side, right? What's your interaction, decisions that you're taking, and so forth. In looking at your background materials, I'll say you had a very clean background for the last 20 or so years, but prior to that, it seems we've got a few little hiccups here and there. I would say numerous ones. There's two sides of that coin here, though, because it seems every one of these, at least to my recollection, you disclosed. And I would say not any single one of these gave me pause. It was more the cumulative factor of the constant run-ins with law enforcement. How's that? But again, I want to stress that you disclosed every one of these, and given the date of these instances, it's very difficult for us to get much of any information to verify the substance of these instances.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I mean, I was a little foolish back in those days. I mean, I carry myself with more, self-respect these days. Over 25 years ago. I mean, even though they carry some weight, they.
I'm sorry. Could you speak into the mic?
Yeah, even though they carry some weight today, obviously that I mean they were minor relatively, and but it has been 25 years or more.
What was going on back then? I mean, what was going on back then with you? Just how would you describe yourself?
I don't know, wild Indian. I drank more in those days, and I think that's what gave rise to a lot of it.
Did you have a drinking problem?
Well, I work full time, but at night, yeah.
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
Yeah, I was working full time during those periods. But yeah, at night,
I mean, did you have a substance problem?
Well, yes. I mean, yes.
Okay, you said you drank more then than presumably now.
Yes.
Do you still drink now? Do you have a substance problem now?
No.
Again, I'll stress again, it's been 20 some years, 25, I think by my count here. But there's a lot here, for at least in my judgment, which, I'm only one of three people. But I was just trying to understand if you could give me a little bit more of what's going on. So you're just basically saying young, dumb, and wild?
Yes, pretty much.
Okay. I'll hold off on further questions for now. Thank you.
I could jump in here quickly. As part of our process for your application for finding a suitability, we're tasked with judging your probity, your fitness for the position, moral character. Tell us some, I'm interested in that process, interested in your historical background. You spent a large period of time unemployed. Would you talk about your travels during that time? That's the claim. That's what's in the records.
Yeah, the tribal members, they received some distributions from the Mohegan Sun Casino beginning in the late 90s, I'm sorry. And around 2000, early 2000s, I first went down to Venezuela, and I had a grandmother that lived there, and I had never been there. And when I went to visit, I decided that I wanted to spend more time down there and learn Spanish. So I pretty much through 2002 through 2010, I spent most of my time in Venezuela and Colombia, which is the neighboring country next to Venezuela, and except for 9 months in Afghanistan. And I mean, I focused on studying the history down there. I mean, you have, compared to the United States, their political situations in those two countries are off the charts. And since I was younger, I'd always read stories about those areas. I spent a lot of time studying those two countries and studying Spanish to become fluent in Spanish.
Okay, thank you. And what were the dates of your time down there in South America?
I went down to Venezuela, and it was April or May of 2002. And then I started coming back to the United States, mostly to move my car, and flew back down.
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time understanding you. Did you say to move your car?
To move my car, yes. I mean, where you park it, sometimes there's limited time where you park it. You have to move the car. I don't know if I'm trying to recall if it was airport parking or hotel parking lot. And at that time, I was deciding to, spend more time in Venezuela. Also, with the visa restrictions, you're allowed 3 months, usually 3 months in the country. Then you have to get out of the country. So I suppose that's a big reason why I was coming back and going back down. So I would say for between 2002 and 2008, I was probably in those countries for 6 years at that time anyway.
Okay. The reason I ask is we have a period from 2002 to 2005 are unemployed.
Yes.
And I'm assuming I think what you're noting is that you were traveling down in South America during that time. Okay.
Yeah, I was pretty much living down there.
Right. And then from 05 to 06, the claim is that you were in Afghanistan.
Yes.
Okay. Working for the Halo Trust.
Yes.
Okay. And then we have in our records that from 06 to 13, you were unemployed again.
Yes.
Okay. Is that accurate?
Yes.
So the dates don't exactly line up with the timeline you've provided us. I understand that you're sort of on the spot. But Mr. Rubenstein, I see him approaching.
Yeah, I think the gap is the law school years.
Okay.
So through 10, he was back in South America, and then 10 to 13, he was in law school.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. What about your current licenses? So you've held securities licenses, bar license. Can we go through some of those and which ones are active now?
Right now, it's just the bar license that's active in Connecticut for Connecticut state and federal court and the U.S. tax court.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's it. That's the only license that's currently active.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I will turn it over to my colleagues for additional questions.
Good morning.
Good morning, Dr. Watkins.
So I had similar concerns related to the number of encounters with law enforcement. Each one on their own, I don't think is an issue, and it was such a long time ago that enough time has passed for things to change, people to mature, and that sort of thing. So, but I'd just like to echo my colleagues' sentiments about the number of contacts. And it seemed that you didn't remember much about those contacts, and we're unable to verify what happened in those contacts. So while I do have that concern because they were such a long time ago, I guess that kind of alleviates my concern. I do have a hard time with the inability to remember like certain aspects of your life. That seems a bit concerning to me as well. Can you explain that?
Yeah, in regards to some of the run-ins, I did put down a description of what happened.
I'm sorry, I couldn't understand what you're saying.
In connection with the run-ins that you were mentioning, I did put down a description of what happened. I mean, if there's any particular gap or, I would be happy to explain more. I mean, the only thing I can say, when I was out of the country, I may have taken 25, 30 trips, back and forth to the United States to those countries. And between Venezuela and Trinidad, it was probably a couple of dozen trips. I mean, it was basically, a lot of times it was to leave the country to, because of the 3-month visa rules in those countries. Pretty much my home address for much of the time was in Uncasville, where my mother lived since 1998. So a lot of the times I would, come back to Uncasville.
And just to be
That was kind of the
clear,
home
Mr. Davison,
base.
you're addressing my questions about your about the history of your travel. out of the country and
Yes,
so on.
yes.
So her question was about your criminal background, run-in with the law, or run-ins with the law.
Okay. Yeah, I have a description for every incident that occurred. I mean, if there's anything particular, I'd be happy to follow up. But I believe I gave a.
Yeah, so the issue wasn't that you necessarily didn't provide a description, but in some instances they were more vague than others, and also you didn't recall if you were ever arrested, right?
Oh no. No.
In many of the incidences, you did not recall whether you were actually arrested. Is that correct?
Oh no. For everything listed down there, I was arrested.
Okay. Thank
Yeah,
you.
no, it might have been on the conviction side. I don't believe I was convicted.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
there was some gaps in the memory about the actual disposition, whether it was NOLO or dismissed, or whether he had to do public service. He couldn't recall exactly how the charges got resolved, but they all got resolved. And again, they all came from his memory. Not that he, because he didn't want to leave something out. And apparently these things were so minor that there are no longer any records of them. He didn't have any records sealed or expunged. There's just no record. So, it does kind of line up with what his recollection is. These were very minor incidents. Granted, there were several of them, but they were all very minor incidents where the charges were either dropped or he, had some kind of arrangement with the court that eventually they would just be withdrawn.
Okay. So in all of the instances, you say you were arrested in all of the instances?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I appreciate that honesty. And again, I do appreciate the disclosure. It just seemed to be, from my perspective, some large gaps in your memory. But if you're saying here today that you were arrested in each of the instances, well, thank you for disclosing that. I appreciate it.
Member Katsaros.
I didn't have anything further. I guess Let me turn that on. I didn't have anything further. I did want to have that exchange with you and understand where you were at your life. Again, no single instance would give me pause. It was just cumulative effect, right? As you can probably imagine, we're tasked with trying to gauge whether or not you're suitable to hold a license in this market. Given the 25 years that's passed and the nature of these, I would say you've just met that bar for me. So I can support your application.
Okay. And Member Watkins, what are your thoughts?
I'm comfortable supporting the application.
Okay. And as is, any conditions that you'd like to discuss or?
Yeah, because I think because it's been such a long time, with regards to those encounters with law arrests, law enforcement, I think I'm happy to go ahead without any conditions if you all are.
Okay.
That's my position as well.
So with that, I appreciate the fact that you are active in your tribe, that you hold a bar license. And the bar license is, it's something that's a privilege as well. So that gives me some comfort. You have a good neighbor in Connecticut and my friend there at the podium with you. So I would just, I know that we take indiscretion seriously going forward. So memory and everything else needs to be extraordinarily clear if we have questions going forward. So please keep track of everything. Okay. All right. With that, then I would ask for a motion.
Chair Gibson, I move to recommend approval of non-restricted item number 3 pursuant to the second revised order of registration, draft number 1.
Let's ask Mr. Rubenstein, is that sufficient?
Acceptable, yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, Mr. Secretary.
Member Katsaros.
Aye.
Member Watkins.
Aye.
Chair Gibson.
Aye. Thank you very much for appearing. Thank you.
Thank you. I
Very good.
also want to mention Senior Agent Schweitzer, who handled Mr. Davidson's application. It was excellent to work with as always.
Well, thank you very much for that. Take care. All right, Mr. Secretary, let's go on to our next item.
Non-restricted number 4 are the applications of John Grant Lincoln and Charles Danner Skinner for the pledge as noted on the agenda.
Hey, welcome, Mr. Shearer.
Good morning, Chair Gibson, Member Katsaros, Board Member Watkins, Mr. Secretary. For the record, Scott Shearer of Brownstein Hyatt Farber Schreck, appearing today on behalf of the applicants. This is a fairly straightforward pledge of the membership interests owned by Mr. Lincoln and Mr. Skinner in Strategic Gaming Management as collateral for a loan used to refinance the property of Baldini's in Sparks.
I would note that your client's one client, Mr. Lincoln, who is the majority shareholder here, is traveling, unavailable. And so if you're available for questions, I assume that is it correct?
I am, yes, and thank you very much for waiving the appearances of Mr. Lincoln and Mr. Skinner today. And yes, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay. So my primary question, Mr. Shearer, is, and I just want to get this on the record so that everyone has a clear understanding of what's happening in the industry. So the hypothecation or the credit agreement that they're seeking, is there a purpose for that?
For the refinance?
Yes.
I think there were two purposes. One was to refinance the existing debt.
Right.
And the second was essentially some cash out. You have an asset that's appreciated and you want to use some of that value for other purposes. And this gave them the opportunity to do that.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you for that. I would turn over to my colleagues for questions. Mr. Katsaros is from that neck of the woods. And so I would ask him if he'd like to lead off.
And once again, I know the property well. That's been a while since I've been there. Are you, I don't want you to have to share any confidential or intimate details because it is a privately held company. But if you could just give just a high level overview, are you comfortable doing that? Of the note and what we're actually, we're paying off the existing debt and then we're going to have a chunk left over, et cetera.
Yeah, so they paid off the existing debt and then there is a revolver as well available for either operating costs should they need it, but primarily, I mean, right now the property is doing very well. It's cash flowing well. So, I mean, they're certainly covering all of their costs and that's available for other acquisitions or renovations as needs arise. But
and they're going to have a essentially half of the amount left over to look at future acquisitions or growth of their operations.
Yes, that's correct.
Is there anything on the forefront that they're looking at right now?
No, not immediately. They are looking at going into possibly operating a property in rural Nevada, but that is, they would go in there under a lease, so they're not devoting significant capital to that.
So just management contract only.
Yeah, I mean, they would acquire gaming devices as well.
Sure.
They'd go in I mean, they have an application pending as the gaming operator.
And right now, what do we have? The big wheel they operate. Well, sorry, they have the arrangement with the big wheel and Lovelock, and then we have the Baldini's and Sparks.
That's correct. And the new location would be another big wheel.
Would be another big wheel
Yes.
in Northern Nevada.
Correct.
Is that kind of their wheelhouse, Northern Nevada?
Yes, it is.
Their big wheelhouse.
It is their big wheelhouse. Yes, it is. And yes, Zen has taken over the operation of the big wheel and Lovelock that just happened actually last week. So
I caught myself when I said their arrangement there. Okay,
Yes.
so they've turned that sports book operation now over to Zen there.
well, it's actually the slot operation. The sportsbook operation actually hasn't commenced. At least my understanding as of 2 days ago was that Zen's technology was still in the lab and had not gone live yet. So the sports betting operation has not gone live at that location, but they have taken over the slot operation as of a week ago.
Okay. I won't get into the nuance of that. But as far as Baldini's and the sports pool there, it's still under the control of Baldini's, and Zen has not teed that up just yet. And
That is correct.
they
yeah.
could, I guess.
Correct. And they're not prepared to do that yet. And frankly, being deep into football season, the likelihood is that they won't until after the Super Bowl sometime.
Okay. Well, no, I didn't have any further questions. Thank you for that.
Pleasure.
Thank you. Member Watkins.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
So my questions were just simply related to the relationship with Zen Sports and turning over the operation to Zen Sports, because I had heard you recently, you all have recently turned them over. So I think my questions have been answered, but I appreciate you being here.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shearer, for your willingness to step forward and answer questions on behalf of the company. And
My
your
pleasure.
clients owe you a debt of gratitude. I would say that. So,
I'd like to thank Supervisor Doyle as well for stepping in and finishing up this investigation.
thank you for that. With that, I'd ask for a motion.
That would be me. I move to recommend approval of non-restricted item number 4 as read into the record by Mr. Secretary.
And Mr. Secretary.
Member Katsaros.
Aye.
Member Watkins.
Aye.
Chair Gibson.
Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, that brings us to non-restricted number 5. Let's please read that into the record if you would.
Unrestricted number 5 is the application of Nevada Restaurant Services, Inc. to add, remove, or modify conditions.
Good morning.
Welcome.
Good morning, Chairman Gibson, members Katsaros and Watkins, Mr. Secretary. My name is Cannon Smith, and I'm General Counsel for Nevada Restaurant Services, Inc. With me today is Paula Graziano. She's NRSI's president. We're before you today on NRSI's application to modify license conditions. NRSI would like to express great thanks to the Investigations Division for their work on this application, in particular, the work they did discussing with NRSI and the other board divisions to ensure that they were comfortable with the modifications we were asking for. And we're happy to answer any questions the board might have.
Chair Gibson, let me interject here.
Please.
I just wanted to make a disclosure on this one. I just in consultation with the Attorney General's office, I just wanted to disclose that on agenda item number 5, my older brother, Thomas Katsaros, is an employee of Nevada Restaurant Services. However, that said, I have no pecuniary interest and do not believe the independence of judgment of a reasonable person in my position will be affected by this relationship. And therefore, I will participate on agenda items number 5 and 6.
Thank you, Member Katsaros. All right, and thank you for the introduction. Welcome, Ms. Graziano. Please state your name for the record, if you would.
Paula Graziano.
So take us through the amendments here that you're requesting.
So the amendments effectively are essentially the modification of 2 license conditions and the removal of a third.
Okay.
In particular, the first one would be to remove the condition as it exists today, which is Upon the addition or removal of the chief financial officer / chief operating officer or general managers or any general manager in the organization chart Exhibit B of the June 2006 investigative report, a new dated organizational chart must be submitted and administratively approved by the NGCB chair or the chair's designee. Further, no general manager may supervise more than 10 store managers, and no store manager may supervise more than 10 equity locations without administrative approval of the NGCB chair or the chair's designee. And to add in place of that, no general manager may supervise more than 10 store managers, and no store manager may supervise more than 10 locations without administrative approval of the NGCB chair or the chair's designee. Additionally, to remove the chief financial officer / chief operating officer and all general managers must have a key employee application on file and must refile within 60 days of a change in the person occupying that position to be replaced with. The gaming director and all general managers must have a key employee application on file and must refile within 60 days of a change in the person occupying that position. Upon the addition or removal of the gaming director or general manager, a new organizational chart must be submitted to the Nevada Gaming Control Board's investigation division. And finally, to remove the third condition, Nevada Restaurant Services, Inc. must file a report to the board 2 times yearly within 30 days after March 31st and within 30 days after September 30th that reflects A, the number of the store managers, dates of birth, social security numbers, and the names of the locations for which they are responsible, and B, the name of the location managers, dates of birth, social security numbers, and the names of the locations they manage.
Thank you for that. I appreciate you going through that extensive set of amendments. I will never forget the meeting during which we had this original discussion. I was on vacation and with my family, the first one I've taken in a long time. There are other reasons for never forgetting that meeting, but this was an item that we referred back. And so our concern is, Member Watkins, and my concerns in particular, were with we didn't want any diminution or dilution of the oversight of various sites of your properties. Do you believe that that these amendments satisfy that concern?
Yeah, I think some of the confusion came from me. I just wanted to reflect what we do now as opposed to what we did 15 years ago, and any of these changes would not reduce the number of staff or the number of people that would come forward to be licensed.
Thank you for that, Ms. Graziano. And yes, you've done a good job, and I appreciate you going back and working with staff and coming back with this. This is I think, for my part, an acceptable and good sort of set of changes.
Thank you.
So I would turn over to my colleagues for questions.
I don't have many comments. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
I would just say I would echo what Chair Gibson has said, but say that I've had an opportunity to review the conditions, and I think that as proposed now, I appreciate the communication you had with our staff and developing these amended conditions, and I think that it satisfies the board's concerns, and I don't have any concerns any longer.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opening. I will echo the summation of that, which is I can support this. I will say it's clear you guys have worked closely with staff on the drafting of this, correct? And my understanding, or at least in dialogue with staff, they were happy with these changes, or they didn't see any areas of concern with making these changes. I will address, for instance, one of these that you're requesting to be removed. We get this information already. So, and I'll just add on.
That's correct. The third condition being removed, that information is provided through us registering the employees.
Via you registering employees directly, we get that information already. We also have some, there's also reporting via Reg 3100 as well, where we get this information. I think some of these were probably imposed upon your license some time ago, 15 years ago, when things were still fresh and new. And it would have been appropriate probably at that time, but given the fact that we're getting this information with that condition at least, that doesn't give me any concern. Also with the organizational chart, I think that's the first one. Again, it's not information we don't have. It's just information that I guess we were looking to have in a different format originally there. And again, you've worked with staff on this. and they've communicated that they didn't have any concerns with that change either. Those are the two sort of broader ones. The other ones seem to be straightforward. So I didn't have any concerns, and I'm happy to support this today.
Well, thank you to my colleagues and thank you to you both for appearing and going through that. I guess as Member Casaros noted, our staff is satisfied with what's happened here with these medical conditions. And as Member Casaros also noted, it sounds like the record, our record reflects that there have been iterations of compliance requirements that have sort of piled on top of one another over time. And so this is one way of sort of consolidating those, cleaning them up, and I guess for having reporting go to the appropriate place. So that's essentially what we're doing here.
Correct.
So thank you for that. All right, with that, I would ask for a motion. No further questions?
I don't have anything.
Okay, please.
Chair Gibson, I move to recommend approval of non-restricted item number 5 as read into the record by Mr. Secretary, adding the following conditions. No general manager may supervise more than 10 store managers, and no store manager may supervise more than 10 locations without administrative approval of the NGCB chair or the chair's designee. And the gaming director and all general managers must have a key employee application on file and must refile within 60 days of a change in the person occupying that position. Upon the addition or removal of the gaming director or general manager, a new organizational chart must be submitted to the Nevada Gaming Control Board's investigation division, and removing the following conditions. Upon the addition or removal of the chief financial officer, chief operating officer, or general managers, or any general manager in the organization chart Exhibit B of the June 2006 investigative report, a new dated organizational chart must be submitted and administratively approved by the NGCB chair or the chair's designee. Further, no general manager may supervise more than 10 store managers, and no store manager may supervise more than 10 equity locations without administrative approval of the NGCB chair or the chair's designee. Also, removing the chief financial officer, chief operating officer, and all general managers must have a key employee application on file and must refile within 60 days of a change in the person occupying that position. And finally, removing Nevada Restaurant Services, Inc. must file a report to the board 2 times yearly within 30 days after March 31st and within 30 days after September 30th that reflects A, the name of the store manager's date of birth, social security numbers, and the names of the locations for which they are responsible, and B, the name of the location manager's date of birth, social security numbers, and the name of the location they manage.
Okay, thank you very much. Member Watkins, please, Mr. Secretary.
Member Katsaros.
Aye.
Member Watkins.
Aye.
Chair Gibson.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's go on to the next item, please.
Non-restricted number 6 is the application of Nevada Restaurant Services, Inc. doing business as Points Casino number 211 for a non-restricted gaming license.
Welcome again.
Good morning again.
Good to
For the
see you
record,
again.
my name is Cannon Smith, General Counsel for Nevada Restaurant Services. With me is Paula Graziano, NRSI's president. We're before you today on agenda item 6, which is NRSI's application for a non-restricted gaming license to conduct a one-day opening at Points number 211, which is located at 5021 East Craig Road, Las Vegas, Nevada 89115. The one-day opening is necessary to preserve the non-conforming use of the casino there. If approved, the one-day opening would be conducted in a trailer with 16 slot machines on site on December 1st, 2021.
Okay. And so the non-conforming use, would you take us through that concern? And just for the record, this is an interesting.
Yeah. Being an old location, it's a non-conforming, non-restricted location. I'm not sure if you have had the pleasure of dealing with entitlements in Clark County, but depending on whether it relates to the business license or the zoning side of the code, there are different timelines. The shortest timeline that we're dealing with here relates to the non-conforming on the zoning side, which creates a 6-month timeline, where if the gaming isn't conducted on the property at least once every 6 months, the non-conforming use would be lost at the local level. And And so that's the timeline we're on to, and until we're able to open it completely and be done with developing it, it will have to be opened every 6 months.
Okay. And so this is an interesting point in fact. I mean, so you deal you know this, but for the record, you deal both with local law and with their licensing jurisdiction, zoning in particular, but, and also with us.
Correct.
So this is us sort of working with our colleagues at the county to attempt to keep you whole.
Certainly, the timeline at the state level is longer than 6 months, but we have to meet the local level's timeline in order to keep the use alive.
Well, thank you for that good presentation. We'll turn it over to my colleagues for questions.
I didn't have any questions.
Thank you for your presentation. I don't have any further questions or concerns.
Thank you.
Okay. With that, I would ask for a motion, please.
I move to recommend approval of non-restricted item number 6 as read into the record by Mr. Secretary pursuant to the condition that the location is limited to the operation of slot machines.
Okay, Mr. Secretary.
Member Katsaros.
Aye.
Member Watkins.
Aye.
Chair Gibson.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Secretary, let's go on to our next item, please. Please read it into the record.
Non-restricted number 7 is the application of United Coin Machine Company doing business as Century Gaming Technologies, doing business at the beach for a non-restricted gaming license.
We have an appearance up north. Please state your name for the record.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, Dennis Nylander. Excuse me. I'm pitch hitting today for United Coin. The representative on this item was ill this morning, unable to attend, asked me to pinch hit for this matter. I represent Marriott International, which is the landlord at this location. And this is the old beach location, which I'm showing my age, but used to be the Sport of Kings before that. And this would be the 9th one-day opening to preserve the grandfather clause. And there is no building on this site now, so they'll bring a trailer in as they have in the past, and 16 machines in order to be in compliance with the city of Las Vegas grandfather provisions as well as the state. And glad to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Nylander. And again, it's good to see you. So this is the 9th extension that you're requesting.
Yes, yes, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I turn it over to my colleagues for questions.
I didn't have any questions, Chair Gibson. Thank you, Mr. Nylander, for the opening on it. It's very straightforward. I think I was here, if I'm not mistaken, last time we dealt with this, but I'm familiar with the property.
Okay. Any other questions, Member Katsaros?
No, I didn't have any other questions.
Okay, thank
Sorry.
you. Member Watkins.
I don't have any concerns related to this application.
All right. So with that, this is our second grandfathering situation, and I appreciate your explanation of Mr. Thank you. I'd ask
Thank
for
you.
a motion if one would make.
Yes, Chair Gibson. I move to recommend approval of non-restricted item number 7 as read into the record by Mr. Secretary pursuant to the condition that the location is limited to the operation of slot machines.
Okay, Mr. Secretary, please.
Member Katsaros.
Aye.
Member Watkins.
Aye.
Chair Gibson.
Aye. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Nylander.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go on to our final item. Yeah.
Non-restricted number 8 is the application of GNLV LLC doing business as Golden Nugget for waiver of Nevada Gaming Commission Regulation 4.080 as noted on the agenda.
Welcome.
Hi, good morning, Chair Gibson, members of the board, and Mr. Secretary. My name is Erin Elliott of the law firm Brownstein Hyatt Farber Schreck. I'm appearing today on behalf of GNLV LLC, doing business as Golden Nugget, and with me is Chris Latil. He is the general manager of the Golden Nugget. The application before you today is related to Golden Nugget's approval as an interactive gaming operator. And we are asking for a waiver of the 6-month license activation requirement. And we're happy to answer any questions you have on that application.
Okay, thank you very much and welcome.
Morning.
Appreciate it. So would you step forward, please, and state your name for the record?
Yes, sir. My name is Chris Latil. I'm the general manager of Golden Nugget Las Vegas. Good morning, Chair Gibson, Mr. Secretary, members Watkins and Katsaris. It's nice to meet you guys.
Thank you. So what number, how many extensions have you received?
It was originally approved back in 2012. So we've received, this would be our 9th, maybe, our 8th. It says here it is granted in May 2018. It was the approval was reissued after GNLV converted from a corporation to an LLC, but it actually was originally approved back in 2012.
Okay. And just for the record, you decided not to get into the interactive poker market.
Right, right. We don't see it as viable right now. I believe there's only one operator in Nevada currently.
Well, thank you for that presentation. I turn over to my colleagues for questions.
Mr. Latil, you're the GM at the property level, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, because I see in our materials, we noticed Mr. Winter, so I was eagerly waiting for him to appear. I didn't know if he was going to be online or not, but pass along my regards to him. So you're on the land-based side. Do you
Yes, sir. I can give you my background if you,
okay,
if
yeah,
you would like.
That'd be great.
I've been in the business 28 years. I've been at Golden Nugget Las Vegas for about 7.5 years. I transferred out here from Golden Nugget, Biloxi, Mississippi, where I was the AGM and the CFO, and I came out here as the CFO and the interim general manager, and then a year later I was promoted to general manager. And prior to being at the Isle of Capri for 3 years in Biloxi, Landry Stillman Fertitta purchased that property. That's how I came into the Golden Nugget family. I worked at the Trump Properties in Atlantic City, and I was with Caesars for 13 years, started in Mississippi in 1994 as a cage cashier at the Grand Casino. And that property was eventually, it was a Lyle Berman property. That property was eventually purchased by Caesars, and I came out to Park Place Corporate, and then I also worked at Caesars Palace. And quite the journey, and I've had a key license in 3 jurisdictions: Mississippi, Atlantic City, and here in Nevada.
Oh, congratulations on your ascension, throughout the gaming industry and within Golden Nugget organization as well. That's good to see that. Yeah, this is specifically for your interactive gaming license. I imagine you're wanting to keep it intact in the event that you decide that there is some viability for the
Yes,
marketplace.
as soon as table games and slots are approved in Nevada, we would go live the first day. That would be our
Thank you.
intention.
Thank you for cutting to the chase there. Yeah, so for a peer-to-peer poker market, you're just not that interested right now.
No, sir.
I think we've licensed several, numerous, but activation of them, I think there's only been a couple.
There's
so
either
you're in a
one or two
similar-
operaters right now, I believe.
Yeah.
Maybe
I should
down
know
to
that.
one.
Perhaps. Yeah. I know of at least one, perhaps two. I think you're in a similar position like others as well, just looking at the marketplace and seeing when it might be viable to turn the switch on. But at this point, you're not interested in the peer-to-peer market.
No.
Okay. Thank you.
And just a quick note for Agent Lundeen, she was wonderful to work with. We appreciate her help on this application.
Thank you for that. Appreciate it. Member Watkins, do you have any questions?
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
I appreciate your extensive history in the industry and congratulations on that as well.
Thank you.
The questions posed by my colleagues and discussion on the record has answered all of the questions that I have, so I have no additional questions.
Okay, so this is a simple 4080 extension again, request for that. I would ask for a motion, please.
Chair Gibson, I move to recommend approval of non-restricted item number 8 as read into the record by Mr. Secretary pursuant to the condition that the waiver of the provisions of Nevada Gaming Commission Regulation 4.080 in connection with the approval granted in May 2018 shall expire on the date of the regularly scheduled Nevada Gaming Commission meeting in November 2022.
Thank you. Mr. Secretary.
Member Katsaros?
Aye.
Member Watkins?
Aye.
Chair Gibson?
Aye. Thank you very much. Thank you for appearing.
Thank you.
So with that, brings us to the end of our non-restricted agenda. And our restricted agenda is noticed for 11 o'clock. And so we'll take a 35-minute break. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, we're back on the record.
Okay, welcome back. We will now begin our 11 a.m. Session, the restricted part of the agenda. And Mr. Secretary, let's proceed with items on our restricted consent agenda.
Restricted number 4 is the application of Christina.
So I just get up on the podium.
Hello, I cannot hear
I think you need to turn your
the secretary. This is the court reporter. Sorry to interrupt. I can't
It'll
hear.
help. It'll
There
help if I
we
turn the
go.
microphone on. Okay, we're good now.
Very good.
Okay, I apologize. Restricted number 4 is the application of Christina Skristonis for temporary licensure as representative of the estate of Audrey Elaine Welty. Restricted item number 6 are the applications of 38852 Inc. doing business as 7-Eleven store number 38852 for a restricted gaming license, and Harvinder Gill for licensure as an officer, director, and shareholder. Restricted number 7 are the applications of 38415 Inc. doing business as 7-Eleven store 38415 for a restricted gaming license, and Harvinder Gill for licensure as an officer, director, shareholder. Restricted number 8 are the applications of 13685 Inc. doing business as 7-Eleven store number 13685 for a restricted gaming license, and Harvinder Gill for licensure as an officer, director, and shareholder. It is also the applications of the 8 7-Eleven locations listed on the agenda to add, remove, or modify a condition. Restricted number 11 is the application of Crawford Coin Inc. doing business at Green Valley Grocery number 67 for a waiver of Nevada Gaming Commission Regulation 4.080 as noted on the agenda. Restricted number 12 is the application of Century Gaming Technologies doing business at Square Bar for a waiver of Nevada Gaming Commission Regulation 4.080 as noted on the agenda. Restricted number 13 is the application of Sartini Gaming LLC doing business as Taverna Castera for a restricted gaming license. Restricted number 14 is the application of Sartini Gaming LLC doing business at Sports Dome XL for a restricted gaming license. Restricted number 15 is the application of Sartini Gaming LLC doing business at Bowl Incline for a restricted gaming license. Restricted number 16 is the application of Century Gaming Technologies doing business at 7-Eleven store number 32649 for a restricted gaming license. Restricted number 17 is the application of Century Gaming Technologies doing business at 7-Eleven store number 24823 for a restricted gaming license.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Secretary. And just to summarize, we've got, so the items not on consent are item number 1, 2, 3, 5, 9, and 10. And these are items for which we did not require any appearances, and there were no questions or issues. Any of my colleagues, would you like to discuss any of these items? Do you have any? Okay, I'd ask for a motion.
Chair Gibson, I move to recommend approval of restricted item numbers 4, 6, 7, 8, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17 with conditions as follows. As to item 4, the limited licenses to expire upon receipt of payment of the proceeds of any and all gaming revenue owed by Century Gaming Technologies to Christina Marie Skristonis as the representative for the estate of Audrey Elaine Welty. Century Gaming Technologies shall provide notice to the Tax and License Division that the payment of funds has taken place. As to item 6, the general manager and each zone manager of the Harvinder Singh and Harvinder Kaur Gill affiliated restricted gaming companies must file key employee applications within 60 days of Nevada Gaming Commission approval, and thereafter must be refiled within 60 days of any change in the person occupying these positions. Upon the addition or removal of any general manager or zone manager position, a new organization chart for the Harvinder Singh Gill and Harvinder Kaur Gill affiliated restricted gaming companies must be submitted and administratively approved by the Nevada Gaming Control Board chair or the chair's designee. Further, no zone manager may supervise more than 8 locations without the administrative approval of the Nevada Gaming Control Board chair or the chair's designee. As to item 7, the general manager and each zone manager of the Harvinder Singh and Harvinder Corgill affiliated restricted gaming companies must file key employee applications within 60 days of Nevada Gaming Commission approval, and thereafter must be refiled within 60 days of any change in person occupying these positions. Upon the addition or removal of any general manager or zone manager position, a new organization chart for the Harvinder Singh and Gill and Harinder Kaur Gill affiliated restricted gaming companies must be submitted and administratively approved by the Nevada Gaming Control Board chair or the chair's designee. Further, no zone manager may supervise more than 8 locations without the administrative approval of the Nevada Gaming Control Board chair or the chair's designee. As to item 8, for 7-Eleven store number 13685, the general manager and each zone manager of the Harvinder Singh and Harinder Kaur Gill affiliated restricted gaming companies must file key employee applications within 60 days of Nevada Gaming Commission approval, and thereafter must be refiled within 60 days of any change in the person occupying these positions. Upon the addition or removal of any general manager or zone manager position, a new organization chart for the Harvinder Singh Gill and Harinder Kaur Gill affiliated restricted gaming companies must be submitted and administratively approved by the Nevada Gaming Control Board chair or the chair's designee. Further, no zone manager may supervise more than 8 locations without the administrative approval of the Nevada Gaming Control Board chair or the chair's designee. In relation to the following locations, 7-Eleven store number 32826, 7-Eleven store number 25123, 7-Eleven store number 26873, 7-Eleven store number 20826, 7-Eleven store number 26994, 7-Eleven store number 38584, 7-Eleven store number 38301, and 7-Eleven store number 38496 to remove the condition that a key employee application must be filed within 60 days of issuance of the state gaming license and thereafter be refiled within 60 days of any change in the person occupying that position. And to add the condition that the general manager and each zone manager of the Harvinder Singh and Harinder Kaur Gill affiliated restricted gaming companies must file key employee application within 60 days of the condition approval and thereafter must be refiled within 60 days of any change in the person occupying these positions. And upon the addition or removal of any general manager or zone manager position, a new organization chart for the Harvinder Singh Gill and Harinder Kaur Gill affiliated restricted gaming companies must be submitted and administratively approved by the Nevada Gaming Control Board chair or the chair's designee. Further, no zone manager may supervise more than 8 locations without the administrative approval of the Nevada Gaming Control Board chair or the chair's designee. As to item 11, the waiver of the provisions of NGC Regulation 4.080 in conjunction with the approval granted in November 2020 and the waiver approval in May 2021 shall expire on the date of the regularly scheduled NGC meeting in May 2022. As to item 12, the waiver of the provisions of NGC Regulation 4.080 in conjunction with the approval granted in May 2021 shall expire on the date of the regularly scheduled NGC meeting in May 2022. As to item 13, a sign of appropriate size which has been administratively approved by the Nevada Gaming Control Board chair or the chair's designee must be at the entrance to the location, indicating that the slot machines are available to the public to play and that patrons are not required to pay a cover charge to engage in gaming.
Thank you very much for that. Mr. Secretary, please.
Member Katsaros.
Aye.
Member Watkins.
Aye.
Chair Gibson.
Aye. Thank you. All right. Mr. Secretary, that brings us to our first restricted item. Please read it into the record.
Restricted number 1 is the application of Shelley Marie Lang for temporary licensure as the executrix of the estate of John Vern Crostway.
Okay, thank you. I've been notified that we have a delay in our feed, so let's let her cue in if she's.
Good morning. I'm here. Can you see me or hear me?
I can see you. Is there a way we can adjust the view? Okay, hello.
Hi,
Please state your names for the record, if you would.
my name is Shelley Marie Lang.
And I'm Greg
Welcome.
Gimin. Hello, and I'm Greg Gimignani of the law firm of Dickinson Wright, representing Shelley Lang in this matter.
Okay. So, Ms. Lang and Mr. Gimignani, would you please take us through this application and what the requests are here?
Sure. The request right now is to approve Shelley as executrix of her father's estate. Her father has had a restricted gaming operation in Eagle Valley, and Shelley has been named as the executrix of the estate. So she's asking for temporary approval to continue those operations until the estate is resolved. Well, actually for 1 year, but I think it's going to be quite a bit less.
Okay. Thank you. And Ms. Lang and your counsel, our understanding is that there were some issues with NRS 4635733 and Reg 8030. Is there an understanding as to does your client fully understand, Mr. Gimignani, what those issues are?
Yeah, I believe she does. Now, those issues, if there are issues, were created during her father's operation of that establishment. But looking back at the timeline, while in 2003, he and his wife were licensed as joint tenants, there was a potential issue in 2010 when he created a trust and some LLCs. But then in 2013, he actually amended his application to be a sole proprietor. So that was after the trusts were created. So I think there's some understanding that certain assets didn't go into the trust, despite what the trust documents might appear to say, because he did apply again in 2013, or at least amend his application or amend his license to being a sole proprietor in 2013.
That was after the death of my mother.
Exactly.
Thank you, Mr. Gimignani. And Ms. Lang, do you understand what's happening here? Why it is that there's been such extensive work with our staff and your counsel to get this into the appropriate sort of situation to bring forward?
Yes. Yes, and we will work together going forward, straighten everything up and have it done completely proper.
Okay. And just for the record and for the benefit of those of us who live in Southern Nevada, would you tell us about where this property is located?
Certainly. When you leave Las Vegas, it's up northeast. So if you know where Pioche is, it's about 3 hours from Las Vegas. And we're in between two lakes, and it's very, very rural. So our tenants that live near there, or people that live near there, and then we have tenants on our property that come in and visit us, and then a lot of people that come from Vegas and Utah to go fishing and hunting.
Wonderful. It's a beautiful part of the state. Thank you for that description, Ms. Lang. And thank you, Mr. Gimignani, for your representations. I have no further questions. I'll turn it over to my colleagues for questions.
Good morning. Thank you for being here today. I just wanted to clarify what you were just saying there, Mr. Is it Gimignani?
Gimignani, yes.
There we go. You said if there was an issue. I think we've got some clear violations here. Or are you suggesting perhaps there's not?
Well, it's kind of unclear, at least to me, because if the interest was actually transferred into the LLCs or the trust, then that is kind of contrary to his amending the license from joint tenant to sole proprietor, which occurred after that time. So
license, I'm sorry, when you say license with?
License, his restricted gaming license went from a joint tenant, from holding it in joint tenancy with his wife in 2003. And the next item on that license appears to be a change to having it as John Croswaith as a sole proprietor. And that was in 2013, which would have been after the LLC and the trust was formed. So if he intended to put these assets into the trust then that's inconsistent with it, what he was doing as a sole proprietor 3 years later.
Okay, and I won't get into what the intention was or not. The fact is that
Yeah, I don't know either.
he is licensed as a sole proprietor here, right? So, okay. Yeah, I mean, it's clear, and I get that there's nothing nefarious here. It's just a couple of missteps that I see that are clearly, violations, but yeah, I don't want to belabor the point on it, but I did want to at least have that on the record because I think there's some clear violations here. But nevertheless, Ms. Lang, I'm sorry for the passing of your father here, but I'm fine with moving forward and supporting your application here today.
Thank you.
Member Watkins.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Similar concerns as my colleagues with regard to the parent violation. Ms. Lang, if you could just please explain in your own words, like what you thought to be the case and what your understanding is now.
Well, my understanding had been that all of his assets would fall through a will to the trust. My understanding is that the gaming board doesn't recognize a trust. And if my father and my mother, because they both went to the same attorney when they got their LLCs created, had they gone to a Las Vegas attorney, I think that a lot of this would have not happened. Unfortunately, they spent a lot of time in Utah shopping and things. And so they just chose an attorney there who didn't have the expertise to say, look, you need to make some changes with the gaming board before we go forward with this. And so I never realized that there was an issue. Otherwise, I would have said something to him as well. So now it just needs to be done properly with the guidance of my attorneys and the board, and we'll get that straightened around once and for all.
And so my understanding is that you need to go through probate. Is that your understanding?
We've actually gone through probate. Everything's just kind of sitting there waiting to find out what our next step is for this.
Okay. All right. I don't have any further questions. Just a shout out to my former professor there in the LLM program. But that is all.
Ms. Lang, if I could, just to correct one item that you noted on the record, I don't think it was intentional, but I would just note that we do recognize trusts. We require that there's an approval of the trust. It's holding.
I do now, yes. I do now, yes. At the time that my parents did this, I had no conception. I've never done anything with the gaming board before. This was all new to my parents when they purchased Eagle Valley. And that's their business. And it wasn't at the time any of my business. My husband and I have a business here in Las Vegas. So, it's not something that I even discussed with my parents and thought that they need to go and seek an additional attorney here locally. I really wish that I had thought about that and told them to seek somebody like Mr. Gemini. It would have made things so much easier. And that's why I'd like to get everything done correctly now. So going forward, I don't have any more issues.
Well, thank you for that, Ms. Lang. And the reason for these questions is not to break you over the coals. It's for us to make clear for the record that this was not an intentional act. That is the way that these assets were moved and the non-approval of the trust.
Right. I know for a fact that my dad did nothing malicious in knowing that, he just didn't have the knowledge that he needed to do something with you guys before doing everything else that he did. That he was advised by counsel in Utah.
Okay. Well, any further questions, colleagues, please?
I don't have anything.
All right. With that, I would ask for a motion.
I move to recommend approval of restricted item number 1 as read into the record by Mr. Secretary pursuant to the condition that the limited license is to expire at midnight of the November 2022 Nevada Gaming Commission meeting on the day the item is heard.
Okay, Mr. Secretary, please.
Member Katsaros.
Aye.
Member Watkins.
Aye.
Chair Gibson.
Aye. Thank you. And thank you for appearing. both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
And I'd like to thank Agent Bradford for all his hard work on this matter. So thank you.
Yes,
you.
thank you. All right.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Thanks.
Let's let them queue out, Mr. Secretary, and then we'll go to restricted number 2.
Restricted number 2 are the applications of Doc G&G Inc. for a transfer of interest and the applications of Gene Hill for temporary administrator of the estate of Glenn Edward Hill and licensure as sole officer, director, and shareholder.
Welcome. Please state your names for the record, if you would.
Gene Hill.
Welcome, Mr. Hill.
Michael Van from the law offices of Shumway Van on behalf of Mr. Hill.
Okay. Well, welcome to you both. Please describe for us, if you would, what you have before us.
Okay, the first thing we have is an application for temporary licensure as the administrator of the estate of Glen Hill. There are some issues that need to be addressed, and I'll just kind of give you the backdrop very quickly. Mr. Hill has a branded sort of bar issue called Rum Runner, and his 2 brothers are in the same industry. Unexpectedly, on July 21st, Glen Hill passed away. And then while he was actually the healthier of the 2 brothers, Gordon Hill passed away less than a month later. And so their one caregiver was Gino. And there is an issue because he did not report the death as timely as he should have. We acknowledge that. We apologize. He was just trying to take care of family, and things slipped through the cracks. And so there's an application for the temporary licensure as the administrator. To answer your question before you get there, the probate is all finished. This is the last issue as soon as we get to the application for the transfer of the interest. So I'd like to publicly thank David Bradford. He has been magnificent working for us to get with us to get through these issues. He didn't ask this, but I think his boss ought to give him a raise.
Well, thank you for that. And please step forward and state your name for the record, if you would, and tell us about yourself.
I'm sorry, your question? I'm
Please
sorry.
state your name for the record and tell us a little bit about you.
Gene Hill. I got my first gaming license, I believe, in '88. I believe I've had 8 of them in different locations. This town has done so much for me, and I love my business. I enjoy my business. And like Michael said, I'm just a little sorry. I'm real sorry that just my timing got mixed up with reporting my brother's death.
Okay, I will turn it over to my colleagues for questions. Thank you. Please.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
So I just had one question, and that was, did you, so obviously there were some concerns related to application and not filing or not notifying us of your brother's death, which I'm very sorry to hear about. But so on December 9th, 2020, you filed with the Nevada Secretary of State to be president, secretary, treasurer, and director. Is that correct?
Yes.
And that were you actually, I understand that there was a misunderstanding with our staff and that you thought you needed to do this. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, my dog ate my hearing aids.
I'm sorry. It's also very hard to understand people with these masks on, so I get it. But
that's correct. There was a misunderstanding. There was contact that says you need to change the ownership. We were in the midst of establishing the probate. There was a question about whether the change should have gone through the Gaming Control Board as opposed to the Secretary of State. Change was made with the Secretary of State. It was not made with the Gaming Control Board, which it should have been. We apologize, we acknowledge it, made the changes as quickly as we could thereafter.
Right. Okay. Thank you. And so my question is simply related to that. So I just wanted to go through that. But were you actually acting in those roles at that time, or did you file with the Secretary of State without having acted in those roles?
Well, with Gordy being gone, I guess I was acting in his position.
So after his death, which was in July 2020, is that correct?
Gordy, Glenn passed away in July. You
2020.
speaking of Glenn?
Yeah, talking about Glenn.
Yeah, oh, Glenn had a key employee, Cindy Procolo, who's amazing, and I haven't really taken over any authority there. She asks me questions now and then and give her a little guidance. I've never received any financial benefit out of it, and Cindy's just been doing an unbelievable job.
So my question to you is that did you actually take on the roles that you filed with the Secretary of State in December 2020?
I will be.
He has, by statute, yes, he's taken on the role. She's running the operation, but he's the one that, under the terms of the will, everything was given to Gino. And so he's stuck between the dog and the fire hydrant at that point in time, trying to figure out what to do.
Okay, so I guess I'll direct my question to you then. So after the death of Glenn Edward in July 2020, did he take on the roles of President, Secretary, Treasurer, Director? Or was it not until December 9th, 2020?
It was not until December because we were going through the probate process as well. We probably should have amended it sooner but you got some dicey area there taking an action when you don't have the authority through the probate court. We were working on that to get the authority to transfer the interest over. And we should have advised the Gaming Control Board as well. That did not occur.
So it wasn't until December?
Correct.
Okay. All right, yeah, I just wanted to ask that question because like I said, I know there was some confusion or misunderstandings with staff about whether or not that needed to be done. That's the only question I have.
Good morning. In terms of the Secretary of State filing in December, then, is there a reason why that happened in December in particular?
Only because we recognized it hadn't been done and we needed to get it done.
Okay, so.
Because there were tax issues coming up and we had to be in a position where he could sign the tax returns and all of that.
Okay, so at that point, you felt that you needed to then go and update it, because I know the annual list probably would have been due for a few months, but it was all part of that process.
It was all part of the needing to get ready for taxes. Yes,
Mr. Hill, my condolences on the passing of your brothers. Right, you said was it Bodie, your first one? Was it?
Glenn was the first brother, and then Gordon was after that.
Gordon, sorry, couldn't hear that. Yeah. Now I understand what's going on here. The reg does say we need to be immediately notified. I mean, clearly it wasn't immediate, but I will say I think we're looking at about 48 days or 58 days or so. But I understand these things are never clean. And frankly, I don't really have any other questions on this. Our materials are pretty clear on what's happened. So I'm happy to move forward with the application as is.
Thank you.
Mr. Hill, do you understand now what the regulations and law requires?
You're gonna have to help me.
Do you understand what the regulations require?
Yes.
Okay. And Mr. Bonovsky, I haven't seen you appear before. You practiced in front of this board?
I'm Michael Van, sorry. I have not, it was a long time ago. I have fortunately been Gino's attorney for
since I had black hair.
35 years. And he came in and said, I've got some issues, help me. And so and he had actually filed the application before I became involved.
Well, welcome. I appreciate having.
Although I'm going to date myself, I feel now like the guy on Saturday Night Live, Garrett Morris. You guys don't get it. You're not.
No, I don't.
Okay, forget it. Has to do with Garrett Morris was interpreting for the hard of hearing and he just started screaming. That's what I
was. Between the hearing aids being gone and the mask.
Yeah, we'll get out of it soon, hopefully. Well, Mr. Ban, I would just note for your purposes, as you continue to advise your client, Mr. Hill, that we do have a unique set of regulations and laws.
Absolutely.
And if you're going to continue in this space, you ought to make sure that you understand.
Yes, sir. I will be taking a gaming CLE on the way.
Good. Well, thank you. And thank you, Mr. Hill. I'm sorry as well for both of your losses. I understand the nature of your lateness and your filings and so on. With that, if there are no further questions, I'd ask for a motion, please.
I don't have any further questions. So I'll move to recommend approval of non-restricted item number 2 as read into the record by Mr. Secretary.
Okay, Mr. Secretary, please.
Member Katsouros.
Aye.
Member Watkins.
Aye.
Chair Gibson.
Aye. Thank you very much for appearing.
Thank you, and I'm
Thank
sorry about
you.
the.
It's okay.
That also applies to the application for the transfer of interest and the licenses as well, correct?
As read into the record.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Let's go on to item number 3, please.
Restricted number 3 are the applications of Tivoli Pub LLC doing business as Rustic House for a restricted gaming license, and the Adam B. Corrigan Gaming Trust and Adam Corrigan for licensure as sole member or manager.
Welcome.
Good morning, Chair members. My name is Adam Corrigan, representing Tivoli Pub LLC, and I'm here to answer any questions you have or haven't been answered in the application. Thank you.
Okay. Do you have a sense of why you're here for us?
I haven't had a license been in front of you guys in quite a while, so hopefully that's it.
Well, that's part of it.
Great.
We have some questions about undisclosed items in your application.
Okay.
Could you explain that, please?
So there was a number of them that, what, can you ask specifically which one so I can?
There's a lien and there's a business lawsuit that we're not.
So the lien was part of an HOA disagreement up at the development I live in. I didn't even realize they had a lien. I can't even remember what year it was. I've got the paperwork here. It was settled. And then the lien was released. So it certainly wasn't excluded on purpose. Once Agent Peters recognized that it wasn't there, I think we responded within 24 hours, if not sooner, and got all that information to him amongst everything else that he found that we hadn't disclosed, none of which was intentional. And those were all solved. They were satisfactory to the agent, and we moved on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is this the first instance you noted that you've been licensed before? Is this the first time that you've failed to disclose an
Yes.
application? Okay.
And mostly we've, over the years, I don't know how many licenses I've had, 13, 7, somewhere in there, lots of them. There was always either one in development, so we were just adding and moving those around. So in that process of not having license in 5 or 6 years, there was some paperwork that just, we hadn't added to it. And a lot of that was the creation of some trust from my parents where I'm zero ownership, but a manager just for beneficiary standpoints for when that inevitably happens. And those weren't disclosed. But
Thank
we're
you.
right away, right when he found those, yeah.
Thank you for your explanation. I turn it over to my colleagues for questions.
I don't have anything other than, Chair Gibson already addressed the failed disclosures, just my understanding that it was inadvertent. So I don't have any further questions or concerns.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's really the reason you're here is because we have some items that weren't disclosed, and frankly, that gives us pause all the time. I know that you've been licensed countless times. Saying on the lawsuit, though, that one was already settled. That was paid by your insurance company.
Yeah, the one against Miguel, that was a wrongful termination, and he was a PEO through it. Is that the one we're talking about?
I believe so. I couldn't recall the individual.
Yeah, so he got sick and was in the hospital, out of the hospital. We were getting ready to open a new location. He was our executive chef. We kept trying to understand, are you coming back? Are you not coming back? And finally, we had to hire somebody else. We let him know he wasn't, he was terminated. Well, he came back just to the sites, somehow thinking he wasn't when he was. But I just felt like there was an attorney already that was looped in. And it was just a very strange situation that hadn't happened to me before. I've got staff that's worked for me for 20 years, and he was actually, frankly, a great employee. I think after the end of the day that he didn't get his $200,000 or whatever the number he was originally trying to sue me for, he was probably wishing he had just come back to work. But yeah, that was managed by the PEO advanced staff and the attorney for the insurance company.
And then there's just the open question of treatment of other employees with respect to overtime.
Mm-hmm.
How is that handled right now between the properties?
So between all properties, whether they're working under me, even though they're different properties, we manage that through advanced staff on what hours they work at each property. And when they hit that overtime at that specific property, they're paid overtime on those hours.
What if they're working at a different property, then are they getting overtime over there?
Absolutely, wherever that overtime hits. So when they're, just call it 40 hours for their week, once they hit over that 40, if it's at one location A, that location will pay their overtime.
Either way, they're going to start earning pay
Absolutely.
at the overtime rate once they hit that 40-hour mark, irrespective of whether it's location A versus location B.
Absolutely,
I believe
100%.
that was part of the question too.
Yes, and that's always been the case. And when we went through the lawsuit, they actually, it had nothing to do with hours. This individual is a salaried individual. So the lawsuit based on hours and where he worked was really irrelevant anyway. But nevertheless, we proved all the background work through advanced staff, that how we manage those hours, how we track those hours for each. And it's really a rare occasion that I have employees that are hourly that are working, usually just covering somebody else's shift, but it's all paid.
Well, let's talk about Rustic House then, since we have you here.
Sure.
What are we looking at? A tavern, restaurant, 15 machines?
Yes.
So you want to tell us a little bit about that operation?
Sure. Rustic House is a location that previously was Three Angry Wives, owned by the Higgins brothers.
Sorry, it was what?
Used to be Three Angry Wives, operated by the Higgins family. Sean Higgins unfortunately passed away in October. Good friends of ours, been family friends forever. It was just an easy transaction. The other two that were there weren't really interested in running it. I offered some assistance just for guidance along the way. Sean and I had actually had a conversation before COVID even began on the transaction. And then of course, COVID hit. And the history between what happened with Sean and then I made a transaction with the other two brothers, and here we are. Yeah. Try to make it as easy as possible for everybody.
And I can't recall in my materials, this operation already up and running as a restaurant and bar?
It was. We took it over on the 4th and closed it immediately, and remodeling it and trying to get open sometime in December or after our hearing.
Understood.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for that.
Sure.
I didn't have anything further, Chair.
Okay. I just note, for Mr. Corrigan, that you understand that you're responsible for, you use advanced staff, use a PEO.
Correct.
You're responsible for any actions, any issues that
100%
arise in that context.
Yes.
Member Watkins, do you have any questions?
I don't have anything further. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, Sean was a friend of mine, and I wish you the very best of luck. It was a tragedy to lose him.
Yeah, sure was.
So I would ask for a motion then.
All right. I move to recommend approval of restricted item number 3 as read into the record by Mr. Secretary pursuant to the condition that a key employee application must be filed within 60 days of issuance of the state gaming license and thereafter be refiled within 60 days of any change in the person occupying that position.
Okay, Mr. Secretary.
Member Katsaros.
Aye.
Member Watkins.
Aye.
Chair Gibson.
Aye. Thank you for appearing.
Thank you. Have a great morning.
Take care. All right. Let's go on to our next item. Mr. Secretary.
Restricted number 5 is the application of Slice 19 Bar and Grill LLC, doing business as Slice 19 Grill and Bar for a restricted gaming license. You also have the applications of the Burke Gaming Trust for registration as a holding company and licensure as sole member. Lastly, you have the applications of Thomas Burke and Paige Burke for a finding of suitability and/or licensure as a trustee, beneficiary, and/or sole manager.
Okay, welcome. Please state your names for the record if you would.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board, Mr. Secretary. My name is Serena Choi with NLS, and to my right is Mr. Thomas Burke, and online is Paige Burke.
Welcome, Ms. Burke.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good morning. I'm Thomas Burke.
Okay, wonderful. Well, welcome to you both, and we appreciate you appearing with Ms. Choi. Please, in your own words, explain to us what's before us and tell us what your plans are.
It's a restaurant with alcohol license for 5 slot machines on the golf course in Cadence, Henderson. It's been an existing business, and I think it was patrons that were requesting for
That's
the
correct.
slots. Eclipse Gaming is the slot ride operator. And that's about it.
Okay. And we've asked for your appearance just so you understand, because you're new licensee.
Yes.
You and your wife are. And so,
Daughter, sorry.
what's that?
That's his daughter.
Daughter, I'm sorry. So welcome to the industry.
Thank you.
And you've had a chance to, these have been, mainly trust and estate type items, but we often have challenges with people who don't disclose, or there are issues with transfers and so on.
Yes.
This is a highly regulated area of business. And I understand you have an SRO, which will be helpful to you. But I would ask that you take note of what you've heard.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Do you have any questions of us?
I don't. We're just really excited to be able to provide the gaming in the bar and restaurant. It's been requested by our neighbors that like to frequent, and we'll be excited to have it.
Okay, wonderful. I turn it over to my colleagues for questions.
Yeah, and I think I'll echo what Chair Gibson said there. You know, obviously we're a highly regulated industry, but primarily the reason you're here is not because of your background. I haven't seen anything concerning. It's a clean background, both from yourself and your daughter. This is the first time you're before us attempting to get licensed, presumably.
Correct.
And so that's why we want to have this exchange. And as part of this process, we like to meet you, as well as we want you to come before this board, and so that we can hear your background as well. And so I would just like to touch upon a couple of things with regard to your operation.
Yes.
It's been in existence for how many years now?
6.
6. And it's only at this point, or recently, some of your customers are actually asking for, why don't you have slot machines here? This is Las Vegas after all.
Yeah, that's correct. As well as out-of-town patrons that come in to visit the golf course, like to have the gaming opportunity.
Do you get a lot of out-of-town patrons?
We do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, especially this time of the year.
Okay. Where is it located at?
It's in the Tuscany community
Okay.
in Henderson, just this side of Lake Las Vegas, and it is a private. It's a public golf course within a private gated community.
Okay. And so you're looking at 5 slot machines here. Have you had to then retrofit the entire bar, or is it a new area?
We'll be retrofitting.
The existing bar?
Correct.
Okay. And then you're going to be utilizing Eclipse as your slot route operator?
That's correct.
So Eclipse will be maintaining the machines, dropping the machines, et cetera?
Correct.
Okay. And this is your first time ever in gaming, correct?
It is.
Not just Nevada, but elsewhere?
Correct.
Correct. And again, I'll note on your background, I didn't have any questions. It came back very clean, but I would like to have an exchange with your daughter. Ms. Burke, how are you?
Good. How about yourself?
Good. It seems that you're not going to have any involvement, though. You're going to be tucked away in Colorado?
Yep. I like it here, so I like to visit Vegas, though.
Well, is there any thought to the future that you might want to get involved with the operations here?
Yeah, I mean, all my family's there, so I might move there in the future and yeah, be part of the operation, but can't really designate a timeline or anything.
As far as your current profession, would you mind sharing what you're doing these days?
Yeah, I work in the software business, so I do operations and sales, and it's in the transportation industry.
And it also seems you teach tennis too.
Yep, and then I'm a part-time tennis coach on the side.
Okay, yeah, it seemed that came through in the materials here.
Mhm.
Well, again, on your background as well, there was nothing concerning for me. It came back clean. I didn't have anything further for you. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you very much.
Watkins, please.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. So I didn't have any questions, issues, or concerns. The background was clean. And I would just like to say welcome.
Thank you very much.
Yes, well, thank you both, to my colleagues, and thank you, to your daughter. Appreciate you appearing, Ms. Choi. I go with my son. We go to the driving range there often. We live
Oh, you do? Okay.
across Lake Mead, actually. Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm familiar with the space. I haven't ever been back into the restaurant, but into the golf shop quite a number of times. So I hope that you do a good job.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
For my own personal sake. So
Yes.
I have a self-interest here. I disclose. So with that, and with that with your clean background and everything else, I'd ask for a motion, please.
I move to recommend the approval of restricted item number 5 as read into the record by Mr. Secretary pursuant to the conditions that if an equity owner is no longer functioning as a key employee for this location, a key employee application must be filed within 60 days and thereafter be filed within 60 days of any change with the person occupying that position. And prior to the issuance of the state gaming license, the licensee shall enter into a service contract with a licensed slot route operator. The term of the contract shall be for at least a 1-year period of time, or any alternative shall demonstrate successful completion of a regulatory compliance seminar for restricted licensees, which is deemed acceptable to the Nevada Gaming Control Board chair or the chair's designee within 90 days of the issuance of the state gaming license.
This condition may be administratively removed or extended by the Nevada Gaming Control Board Chair or the Chair assessing.
Thank you. Mr. Secretary, please.
Member Katsaros.
Aye.
Member Watkins.
Aye.
Chair Gibson.
Aye. Thank you very much. Thank you for appearing, Colorado.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you out. And then we'll go to number 9.
Restricted number 9 is the application of Tuman Enterprise LLC to receive a percentage of revenue from Sartini Gaming LLC, doing business at 7-Eleven store number 23201. You also have the application of Imran Ali Rana for licensure as sole member and manager.
Okay, welcome, Mr. Rana.
Good morning or good afternoon, maybe now. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, and Mr. Secretary, Jeff Donato here with the applicant who is appearing in Carson City, Mr. Reyna. With your permission, just like to give a little background on the application and have him give some information about himself.
Please.
Very good. So Mr. Reyna, this was an existing 7-Eleven store that he acquired in December of 2020. At that time, the machines were removed from the store because the existing operator there held their own license. So the store's been without gaming up until February of 2021, when Sartini Gaming was approved to hold the license for the store. He's been on space lease up until this time, and if approved, he will then convert from space lease to participation. And that's really it. And with that, I will have him give some information about himself.
Okay, welcome.
Thank you.
Mr. Rana, if you would, please tell us about yourself.
Yes, my name is Imran Rana. I am just moved to Nevada a year ago. I was in the car business for 30 years as a sales manager. So I decided to buy a 7-Eleven. Now I'm here with my family.
Okay. In the car business as a sales manager, should be a change.
Correct.
How's it going so far?
So far, so good. I'm excited.
Okay. Well, you understand why you're here, I assume.
Yes.
It's our first time seeing you, and so we just want an opportunity to hear from you and to introduce ourselves and to hear from you as well. So thank you for appearing. All right, I'll turn it over to my colleagues for questions. If you would.
Sure. Is it Mr. Reyna? Or Rana?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Reyna.
Rana.
Thank you. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Hey, I get it all the time with my name too. Thank you. I appreciate that though. Hey, congratulations on getting into, a completely different type of venture than you were previously. How did this opportunity come about where you went and, decided to be an owner of a 7-Eleven franchise?
So right next to my dealership, there used to be a 7-Eleven in Chico, where I was moved from. So I used to go to this store a lot. And then over time, we became friends with this owner. And he said, why don't you look at, when I was told him, hey, I'd like to have my own business someday. He said, well, why don't you look into 7-Eleven? I said, okay. And I submitted the application. And then intention was to buy something in California because I was living there. And I couldn't find the right deal. And obviously all the prices in California. And so then there's an opportunity came in Nevada. And I came and looked at the store in Fernley and just fall in love with the people, the previous owner, the location, and just happened.
How's it going now in Fernley?
That's good. It's busy.
Yeah,
so
I imagine
we just got our new pumps, the remodeling. So we got the new pumps, new signs. So everything is looking good. The community is very supportive. So everything's working out really good.
So you changed out the pumps there?
Yeah. The 7-Eleven did. They changed. We had this is an old store. It's my 25-year-old store. So they just came, they updated the pumps and the sign. We used to go up there with a little stick and the signs up there. If it's a windy day, you have to wait. So now we can just push the button and we can change all the signs and everything. So we were excited.
You probably didn't know when you came to Nevada that we do have some strong winds here.
Oh boy, yes. I mean,
it surprised me. No, I just wanted to hear about your background there. I see that you mentioned you're in the car industry, Jaguar, Land Rover, Reno. Is that on the south end of town?
Correct.
Okay. I think I drive by that all the time. Frankly, I'm never looking for a Jaguar, so I don't pay attention so much. As far as your background's concerned, it came back clean, so I am happy to support this application.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, Member Watkins.
Hi, Mr. Reyna. There were no areas of concern. I just say welcome, good morning, and it's nice to meet you. I'm happy to
Same here,
support the
ma'am.
application.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right. Well, thank you again for appearing. And with that, I'd ask for a motion.
I move to recommend approval of restricted item number 9 as read into the record by Mr. Secretary.
Mr. Secretary.
Member Katsaros,
Aye.
Member Watkins,
Aye.
Chair Gibson.
Aye. Thank you.
Appreciate that and like to thank Agent McElhaney for all her hard work on the application.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Reyna, for appearing.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right, let's go on to our next step.
Restricted number 10 is the application of Formaja LLC to receive a percentage of revenue from Century Gaming Technologies doing business at 7-Eleven store number 38394. You also have the application of Muktaben Patel for licensure as member and manager.
Welcome.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Mr. Secretary. Jeff Donato here with the applicant, Mrs. Patel. Before you today is application to share in gaming revenue. This was a brand new 7-Eleven store that was built. She took over the business in April of 2021. It's been without gaming up until September of 2021 when Century Gaming was approved to hold the license for this store. So she's been on space lease up until this time, and if approved, she will then convert from space lease to participation and start sharing in the gaming revenue. And with that, and with your permission, I'd like to have her give some information about herself.
Please. And welcome, Ms. Patel.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. So yeah, since April of 2021, my life completely changed. I was with Luxottica for 14 years doing training and in retail. So Luxottica owns LensCrafter, Pearle Vision, Sears Optical, and Sunglass Hut. So I was doing that for training and developing for them. I had 36 stores that I was responsible for here in Nevada. And I had a couple in Barstow. But COVID happened and things changed and I was moved to virtual. So went from 36 stores to 384 stores, having all of the West Coast in my line. So with 2 kids, the workload was really a lot. And my brother is actually in 7-Eleven business. So while I was furloughed for a month, I helped him out. And I thought it was a really good opportunity for me to just get out and do something on my own since my family is in business. And here I am today.
Well, outstanding. Thank you for that. And if you would, just take us through your what you think your weeks will look like. I mean, what is your commitment to the location? How many hours a week will you spend there and so on?
I'm there every day. Mornings, usually you go from 8 a.m. till 4 p.m. Mainly every day I'm there. Just weekends I'm here with my kids, but Monday to Friday I'm there from 8 to 4.
Well, thank you. And I respect and appreciate that you're changing in the kind of work. So good luck to you. I turn over to my colleagues for any questions.
I don't have any questions. I'd just like to say congratulations on the career change and on your success and wish you the best of luck.
Thank you. I'm super excited.
Yeah, congratulations for sure. That's exciting. You said you had 384 stores you were overseeing. Now you're going to one store.
Yeah.
So did you think the one store would be, as busy as it is comparative to the 384 that you oversaw before?
I think this is just a different challenge on its own. I love the interactions with people and being out and about. And when whole COVID, I think it was all just computer, virtual, just sitting in front of the computer. So actually, I prefer this because I'm in the store. I'm meeting all these people. You just become their family. Basically, they become your friends, and it's just nice environment for me. And it's a brand new store, so yeah.
Yeah. What's your workload look like though on a daily basis? Are you there like 8 hours a day?
Yeah, I mean, some days is 8 hours a day, some days 4, some days 12. It's you just go with the flow.
It's not a 1-for-1, I guess, is what I'm getting at, because I know how busy it is to manage a store like that. So, yeah. And how many machines are we looking at here?
It is 5 machines.
Okay.
Any further questions from?
I think we had 4 in our materials, but
4.
either way.
Is it 4? Okay.
It's 4.
I
Okay,
apologize.
thank you. No, I didn't have any further questions. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay, with that, I'd ask for a motion then.
I move to recommend approval of restricted item number 10 as read into the record by Mr. Secretary.
Okay, Mr. Secretary, please.
Member Katsaros.
Aye.
Member Watkins.
Aye.
Chair Gibson.
Aye. Thank you and congratulations to you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank Agent Peters for all his hard work on this application.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Secretary, that brings us to our, looks like we have an approval of a new device.
You have one request for final approval of a new device. That item is Epic 2000, submitted by Gaming Technology.
Okay. We have an appearance. Welcome. Please state your names for the record, if you would.
My name is Scott Cox. I'm a Chief Operating Officer, Gaming Technology Group. Jim Rathman is our Director of Gaming Product Development.
Welcome.
Good afternoon, almost. Gaming Technology Group is here before you for the approval of our Epic 2000 game. I'd like to kind of step through a little bit for you so you understand who Epic or who Gaming Technology Group is, who I am, and who we are as a company, and how we got to the gaming device.
Please do. Go ahead.
Gaming Technology Group was founded, Bernie Boyle, who is our current CEO. Bernie founded GTG after his sale of Western Money Systems to Global Cash Access, which is now goes by Evry. And Bernie took the funds of that and created Gaming Technology Group. We're primarily in the restricted business as far as systems. We currently hold a manufacturer and distributor's license with the state of Nevada, with the Nevada Gaming Control Board since 2013. I joined Gaming Technology Group in 2017 as a consultant to assist with the rollout of a new gaming system. And I've been there ever since and held the positions of Vice President Operations prior to taking the CEO position. Prior to GTG, I spent most of my career in the gaming business. I started when I was 21 years old and have been in the gaming business ever since. I've lived in Nevada since 1979, moved here when I was 11. I've held various positions on the Las Vegas Strip, local properties, ran a slot route for a while, and then I spent 3 years in tribal gaming in California and Arizona. After my operations in Indian gaming, I decided to take a break from the operations side and decided to work on the industry itself. I worked with Management Science Associates, who at the time we were developing analytical tools for the gaming industry. And I was doing various consulting with different gaming operators, with kiosk operations and such.
If you would, please describe the game for us. Member Katsaros signed the letter approving your trial.
Yes.
Take us through the trial as well, what you saw that was good. Issues.
So the game that we have is kind of more of a niche game into the industry. With our restricted locations, they were asking for more promotional with Video Keno, as they were seeing players were migrating from playing video poker over to playing Video Keno. During that time, we met a group out of Montana who was looking for a tier 1 system. And we saw that they had these Keno games as well. And since our system could not bonus based on Keno itself, just on video poker hand analyzer, we started to look into what we needed to do to introduce these games. Initially, we were looking just for the restricted market of the need for this type of niche game. And then we come to find out that a lot of major gaming operators are looking for the same solution. We did some focus groups with station casinos, with executives and players. We took some games, set them up, and let players evaluate them, let the executives evaluate them. We made some changes to those games. We added a couple of games, and then we submitted the games to Nevada Gaming for approval and trial.
Okay, I would just note for the record that our laboratory, our technology division has recommended that your gaming device, or as stated, your gaming device does meet minimum standards for gaming devices required by Reg 14 and associated technical standards for gaming devices, and it recommends final approval. So congratulations on that recommendation.
Thank you.
I would turn it over to my colleagues then, Mr. Katsaros, and Member Katsaros in particular,
Sure.
who has expertise in space, to ask questions.
Sure. Mr. Cox, good to see you.
Good to
I'm
see
sorry,
you.
what was your name, sir? I missed it.
James Rathbun.
Rappa?
Rathbun.
Okay. I'll call you James. Sorry, I can't.
It's perfect.
Hey, Mr. Cox, you're talking about sort of niche product. Are you talking about just Keno in general? Or are you talking about?
Really, the introduction of this gaming product is the video Keno. But we do have video poker, and we are looking at introducing video reels as part of our multi-game.
You led me to the next question, but so with this iteration though, you've got poker and Keno only.
Correct.
Okay, yeah. And your target market is restricted. Of course, you did the field trials at non-restricted. Do you think?
Just like I stated, initially, we were looking at this as a restricted because that's majority of our current clientele is. But as we began focus groups and talking to operators, Station Casinos is, we did 2 of our 3 field trial locations is with stations, and they're a huge fan and advocate of this product.
Yeah, I mean, just anecdotally, I wouldn't necessarily call it a niche product whatsoever. I think there's been a resurgence there, frankly, particularly more in the locals market with Keno itself. And you mentioned Montana. I know that's a huge product out there.
It is it is about 95% video Keno. It's an amazing market.
It's amazing there, and they release really detailed information on the performance of those machines as well, so you can start to glean into who's being more successful too.
Definitely.
But hey, this is well done to you guys. I mean, this is not for the faint of heart to stand up a new product into a new market. Of course, you guys are already licensed as a systems, as a manufacturer, but primarily in the systems industry. To now venture into the machine side of things, well done. And I know we had a couple of hiccups, which is not uncommon, and you guys resolved those. You ended up getting the, recommendation for us to be able to provide that recommendation. So I congratulate you with that. And unless there's anything else you wish to share on the product, I did see some pictures of it. I never actually got to get out and look at the product on the floor. I like to do that oftentimes, but I wasn't able to get down here and see it. But it looks nice, looks sharp. So
they're still at Red Rock Casino, Arizona Charlie's, and soon they'll be, after approval, be installed up in Reno. So be more than happy to.
Oh, that actually, thank you for that. So do you have some placements then in the queue?
Originally, we were looking at some Reno locations to do the field trial, and going through COVID and everything else, and with the relationship with stations, we decided to keep the field trials down here. But yes.
No, I mean, it's good to start in Vegas, then you can move up to varsity in Reno here soon. Okay. I didn't have anything further. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Member Watkins.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So I don't really have any questions or concerns. Congratulations on your success in the field trials and on getting the recommendation. And I'm happy to support.
Thank you.
Okay, well, with that and that fulsome discussion, I would ask for a motion, please.
I move to recommend final approval of the Epic 2000 gaming device submitted by Gaming Technology Group.
Okay, Mr. Secretary.
Member Katsaros.
Aye.
Member Watkins.
Aye.
Chair Gibson.
Aye. Thank you very much. Thank you for.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations. All right, Mr. Secretary, I believe our next item is a casino dispute, a player dispute appeal.
You have one casino player dispute appeal. The hearing examiner recommends the agent's decision denying payment be affirmed. That item is Byron Thompson versus Green Valley Ranch Station Casino.
Okay. I have reviewed the record. I don't have any questions. I would ask my colleagues if they are you have any questions or comments?
I don't have any questions. I'll just comment that I agree with the findings of the hearings examiner.
Do I?
Same here. I agree with the findings. I've had an opportunity to review the documentation.
Okay, with that, I'd ask for a motion.
I move to recommend approval of the hearing examiner's recommendation to affirm the agent's decision denying payment of $775.
Mr. Secretary, please.
Member Katsaros.
Aye.
Member Watkins.
Aye.
Chair Gibson.
Aye. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Secretary, let's go to our Esports Technical Advisory Committee item. Please read it into the record if you would.
Your next item for consideration are appointments to the Esports Technical Advisory Committee as noted on the agenda.
Okay, let's welcome our own Mr. Michael Morton. Welcome, Mr. Morton.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Gibson, Member Katsaros, Member Watkins. For the record, this is Michael Morton, Senior Policy Counsel for the Nevada Gaming Control Board. Before you this afternoon is an item for deliberation regarding potential appointments to the Esports Technical Advisory Committee. Senate Bill number 165 of the 81st session of the Nevada Legislature created the Esports Technical Advisory Committee. The legislation requires that the Gaming Control Board appoint individuals from certain sectors of the esports industry to this new committee. The statutory charge of the committee is to formulate and provide recommendations to the board on any guidelines and parameters that may be necessary to ensure the integrity of esports when wagers are placed on such competitions. Since this legislation became effective earlier this year, Chief Taylor and I have met with leaders in the esports industry here in Nevada, as well as others nationally and internationally, on how best to build this committee. After months of conversations and interviews, Chief Taylor and I recommend the following individuals for appointment to the advisory committee. Dr. Brett Abarbanel, a resident of Nevada, is the Director of Research at the International Gaming Institute at UNLV. Dr. Abarbanel's research covers internet gambling policy and behavior, esports and gambling, operations and technology use, and responsible gaming and community relations. Dr. Abarbanel is the co-executive editor of the UNLV Gaming Research and Review Journal and is also a founding director of the Nevada Esports Alliance, which promotes development of best practices at the intersection of the esports and regulated gambling industries. I will note that the doctor is in the audience here today. Paul Hamilton, a resident of Nevada and current licensee of the Gaming Control Board and Gaming Commission, is the president and CEO of Greenspun Corporation. Most significantly for this item, Mr. Hamilton currently serves as co-owner and CEO of Atlanta Esports Ventures, which owns and operates two leading esports teams, the Atlanta Reign in the Overwatch League and the Atlanta FaZe in the Call of Duty League. As the owner of two esports teams, the appointment of Mr. Hamilton will satisfy the requirement in Section 10.5 of Senate Bill 165 that the board appoint an esports participant to the committee. Chief Taylor and I also recommend that Mr. Hamilton serve as chair of this committee. Seth Shore, also a resident of Nevada and current licensee of the Gaming Commission, is CEO of Fifth Street Gaming and chairman of the Downtown Grand Hotel and Casino. In 2015, Mr. Shore developed the first fully integrated esports program in a casino resort at the Downtown Grand. The Downtown Grand's esports program has included weekly esports contests, team residencies and sponsorships, a weekly broadcast, and professional tournaments. Mr. Shore is also a co-founder of the Nevada Esports Alliance. Through his work at the Downtown Grand, the appointment of Mr. Shore would satisfy the requirement in Senate Bill 165 that the board appoint an esports host to the committee. Lavelle Walker, a resident of New York, is currently the Vice President of Business Development at Penn National Gaming. Prior to his tenure at Penn National, Mr. Walker served as the head of esports at MGM Resorts International. His experience in the esports industry include launching the first esports arena on the Las Vegas Strip, development of the mobile sports betting application Play MGM, building Level Up at MGM Grand, and working with regulators to see the first legal wagers on esports made in the state of New Jersey. Christian Bishop, also a resident of Nevada, is the Chief Revenue Officer at Method. Method, headquartered in Glasgow, Scotland, is an entertainment and esports company known for content creation and fielding esports teams in titles such as World of Warcraft and Fortnite. Previously, Mr. Bishop was the commissioner at eStar Studio, where he presided over the production of the World Series of Esports competitions, creating rule sets and enforcing rules to ensure competitive integrity in the games. Judd Hannigan, a resident of California, is the CEO of Allied Esports International. Allied Esports International owns the HyperX Esports Arena at the Luxor Hotel and Casino on the Las Vegas Strip. Allied Esports properties serve as the home to a number of online and offline proprietary productions and events, including Friday Frags and Saturday Night Speedway, as well as original partner esports programs such as the Simon Cup. As Allied Esports International broadcasts many of its own events, the appointment of Mr. Hannigan would satisfy the requirement in Senate Bill 165 that the board appoint an esports broadcaster to the committee. Finally, Brandon Snow, a resident of Connecticut, is the Senior Vice President of Esports at Activision Blizzard, one of the top game publishers in the esports industry. As a leader in the esports industry, Activision Blizzard and Mr. Snow have viewed the legal wagering space as a potential opportunity for growth. Recently, Activision launched a predictive overlay where viewers can guess what might happen in the coming action in certain games, and odds could be set on that such action. The appointment of Mr. Snow would satisfy the requirement in SB 165 that the board appoint an esports game publisher to the committee. In the proposed appointment order for this agenda item, it's contemplated that the committee shall hold its meetings no more than once per calendar quarter and hold its meetings in accordance with the Nevada Open Meeting Law. If the board were to make these 7 appointments to the committee today, the appointment of each member of the committee would expire at midnight on the last day of the November 2024 Nevada Gaming Control Board meeting. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions that the board may have on this item.
Thank you, Mr. Morton. I'd just like to thank you and thank Chief Taylor for your incredible work in finding these qualified individuals. I couldn't imagine a better group of people to serve on this new committee. So thank you for your work.
You're welcome.
I turn it over to my colleagues for initial questions, please.
Just a really quick question with regard to the statutory requirements. So by my count, there was 4 individuals that are that there's a legislative requirement to fulfill with regard to the positions.
That's correct.
If I worded that correctly.
Yep, Senate Bill 165 required that 4 types of individuals be appointed to the committee at a minimum, and that was a participant, a host, a broadcaster, and a game publisher.
Okay, so with the appointment of the 4 of these individuals that you mentioned, we will then satisfy that requirement there.
Correct.
Okay, and then I just got a couple of comments. I want to thank you, Mr. Morton, as well as Chief Taylor, for all your work here in getting us to where we're at today. You know, the legislature remanded this to the Gaming Control Board, SB 165, and you guys certainly delivered here. So I'm most pleased that you've succeeded in assembling an outstanding group of individuals as well, just looking at their resumes. I know you've touched some high points on each one of them, but I'm sure we could go even further. You know, esports is really, it's a new market for us, or a new territory. And you need to look no further than the formation of this committee as acknowledgement of that. Even being a new space for us here, it's proved utterly popular, and it's going to continue to grow. There's little debate about that. And we're really only scratching the surface right now, I think, there. So, you know, I mean, when we talk about esports, it's no secret that the area that gives us pause perhaps is game integrity. And so looking to this committee to be able to provide advice and recommendations in that regard is going to be key. So again, I want to thank you and Chief Taylor for getting us to where we're at today. I also want to thank each one of the individuals that agreed to be appointed and to have the willingness to accept the positions on these roles, because frankly, I'm happy to support each one of these individuals to be appointed to the committee. And we'll be looking for input and advice and formulating recommendations to ensure that we maintain integrity of wagering on these types of events. So, thank you again for your opening presentation. It was unsurprisingly spot on, right on point. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Member Watkins, who wrote her master's or LM note, a resident expert. Please.
If you can call it that. Thank you so much, Mr. Morton, for your work and for Chief Taylor's work on putting together this proposal or this recommendation for very qualified individuals with exceptional backgrounds, exceptional and diverse backgrounds. I really and truly appreciate your work on this. And I think I've had an opportunity to review their backgrounds and the statute and think that these proposed persons would meet the statutory requirements. And I see that you noted that Dr. Barbanel was in the audience, and I wanted to ask if she wanted to say anything, if she had anything she wanted to say. No? Okay. But it's nice to have you here. So thank you for being here. Yeah, so I don't have anything else. Like I said, I've had an opportunity to review it, and I am very excited to be moving forward with this. I think it's something the industry needs, and we want to support the growth of esports here in the Nevada community.
Thank you both. I would note the appearance of Mr. McKellar. Mr. McKellar, our senior DAG from the Attorney General's office.
Good afternoon, Chair Gibson. As you said, for the record, John McKellar with the Attorney General's office, and I'm just here to answer any additional legal questions you have on the set.
Okay. Would you just describe for us quickly the use of this order as a sort of controlling document?
This order it ensures board oversight of the committee and also that its duties are aligned with SB 165. As Mr. Morton set out, it is the committee's charge from the statute that they provide recommendations to the board on any guidelines and parameters necessary to ensure the integrity of esports. And from there, the board could act to promulgate regulations. And then it just sets out the administrative functions, how the committee gets administrative support from the board when it meets, and also contains the other portions of the statute.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McKellar. Chief Taylor, I see you in the audience, and I'd be remiss if I didn't. Do you have anything to add? No? Okay. Well, thank you for your good work, and thanks to each of these individuals who, as noted, has agreed to serve on the state. We're honored to have them as part of this organization. So with that, I would ask for a motion, please.
Chair Gibson, pursuant to Senate Bill 165 of the 81st legislative session, I move for the appointment of Dr. Brett Barbanel, Paul Hamilton, Seth Shore, Lavelle Walker, Christian Bishop, Judd Hannigan, and Brandon Snow to the Esports Technical Advisory Committee. I further move that Paul Hamilton serve as chair of the committee. Unless terminated earlier, these appointments shall expire at midnight on the last day of the November 2024 Nevada Gaming Control Board meeting. In addition, the committee members shall serve without compensation. A majority of the members will constitute a quorum, and a majority of the members present at the meeting will determine the action of the committee. The committee shall hold meetings no more than once a quarter unless otherwise approved by the board chair. The committee may use administrative support provided by the board and approved by the board chair or his designee. The committee must comply with all federal, state, and local laws and regulations, specifically including the Nevada Open Meeting Law. In carrying out its duties, the committee may not request or require the disclosure of any proprietary information, intellectual property, or trade secrets. Minutes from each meeting of the committee must be placed as an informational item on the next available board meeting agenda.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Secretary.
Member Katsaros?
Aye.
Member Watkins?
Aye.
Chair Gibson?
Aye. Thank you. Thank you for appearing. All right, Mr. Secretary, that brings us to our last agenda item, public comment.
This item is placed on the agenda to give the public an opportunity to comment on gaming-related matters.
Okay, anyone wishing to make a public comment, please step forward. You're in Las Vegas. In Carson City? Does not appear we have anyone who wishes to make a public comment. With that, Mr. Secretary and members of the audience, that concludes our Nevada Gaming Control Board meeting for the month of November, and we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.